She was caught fooling around with her white moonlight, showing no guilt, and handed me a divorce agreement. It has been 3 years, you should step aside and let Mr. Jiang take your place. I left in style, taking all the key players from the company with me. But Jiang Xianyu still expected me to continue being her loyal dog. Later, when I held a grand wedding with the stunning female tycoon, she blocked my path, crying and begging for my forgiveness. Chapter 1, Truly a great gift she gave me. My wife's first love has returned to the country. She has been fooling around with him, and threw a divorce agreement at me. It's been 3 years. You should step aside and let Mr. Jiang take your place. I left with style, taking all the key players from the company with me. Later, when I had a grand wedding with my new girlfriend, Jiang Xianyu broke down, blocking my way and begging for my forgiveness. Xianyu, my time is limited. When will you give me an official status? I've already brought you home. From now on, you'll be the master of this house. The dim, yellow light in the room was so ambiguous, and the entangled figures made my eyes burn with anger. The man on the bed seemed to be doing it on purpose, looking at me provocatively. I wanted to rush in, but the woman's soft moans forced me to stop. I almost stumbled back into the living room, lit a cigarette, and took a deep drag, but it didn't numb my emotions. After 3 years of marriage to Jiang Xianyu, she never let me touch her. She was keeping herself pure for her first love. At that moment, I felt like the sky was falling. I don't know how long passed, but Jiang Xianyu came downstairs and sat next to me. She was in her pajamas, showing no care for the marks on her neck. She lazily said, "Since you saw it, let us get a divorce. It's been 3 years. You should step aside and let Mr. Jiang take your place." I clenched my fists, stubbornly asking, "Is it because Tang Chi is back? In these 3 years, didn't you have any?" She even interrupted me harshly, sizing me up. "No, I never liked you. You only helped my company through a crisis because of your management skills. My dad made me marry you. Otherwise, with your status, would you even be worthy?" She has always looked down on me with that superior attitude. Jiang Xianyu's eyes grew cold. "While I still feel a little guilty towards you, sign it, and we'll go register for divorce tomorrow." Upstairs, there were faint sounds. Jiang Xianyu instantly stood up in a panic and rushed upstairs. I watched her back as my heart slowly grew cold. I picked up the divorce agreement and took a look. Money, house, car. It was as if he was with her only for the money. The next day, Jiang Xianyu and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register for divorce. The official paperwork would take a month. After we left the bureau, Jiang Xianyu directly warned me, "I won't be home for a while, so stop calling me. Don't go near Tang Chi either, his health is fragile and can't handle the stress." I laughed, raising an eyebrow, and retorted, "Is it him who is provoking me or me provoking him? You should know better than anyone, Jiang Xianyu. I haven't divorced you yet, but he has already moved in. If he had any sense of shame, he wouldn't have come back now." I looked at Jiang Xianyu with a hint of mockery as her face turned darker. 3 years ago, he abandoned you, and now you're running after him like a dog. Jiang Xianyu, you're just as cheap as me. Zhang Fuxing, you. Jiang Xianyu's face turned bright red with anger, her chest heaving. She raised her hand as if to hit me. I tilted my head and smiled, then quickly got in a cab and left. As the car pulled away, my smile slowly faded into coldness. The Jiang family is a century-old wealthy family in a city. 3 years ago, because of Jiang Xianyu's poor management, the company was on the brink of bankruptcy. It was after I married her that the company stabilized and the Jiang family flourished. But after that, Jiang Xianyu feared I would influence her position in the company, so she asked me to stay at home. Because I liked her, and thinking we both couldn't be so busy, I agreed. But I didn't expect this. She really gave me quite the gift. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I looked down, and it was a message from Jiang Xianyu, "Dad wants us to come home. You know what you can say, and what you shouldn't." Chapter 2, The Type of Person I Most Disdain. At the Jiang family's old house. I arrived before Jiang Xianyu. Father Jiang has always been quite fond of me. He pulled me into the living room for a chat, and after a while, he received a phone call and left. Mother Jiang came downstairs and gave me a quick glance, muttering a few unpleasant words under her breath. She has always looked down on me, thinking I've held Jiang Xianyu back. After all, Jiang Xianyu married me, which was considered a downward marriage. Mother Jiang always wanted her daughter to marry someone from a similar social standing. Why didn't Xianyu come back with you? Did you upset her? I took a sip of tea, calmly looking at Mother Jiang. Auntie, you know very well what Xianyu's temper is like. Mother Jiang furrowed her brows, dissatisfied with my attitude. I had always been humble in front of her, and because she looked down on me, she often scolded me for being useless, making me seem even more easy to bully. She slammed the teacup down on the table. Zhang Fuxing, what do you mean by that? Are you starting to despise Xianyu now? Let me tell you, marrying Xianyu is the greatest blessing you could ever had. Don't be ungrateful. I smirked mockingly. This greatest blessing has given me a cheating wife, auntie. Maybe this kind of blessing would be better for you? Zhang Fuxing. Before I could finish, an angry shout came from outside. Jiang Xianyu strode in, her high heels clicking loudly on the floor. The smile on her lips quickly faded, replaced by a furious glare aimed at me. I looked at her with rare calmness. After 3 years of marriage, I thought I could eventually win her heart, but reality struck me hard. A loyal dog, in the end, has nothing but a heart that has been torn out. Xianyu, is what he said true? Mother Jiang looked at Jiang Xianyu, surprised. Jiang Xianyu pursed her lips tightly and walked slowly toward me. I leaned lazily against the sofa, glancing up at her. Zhang Fuxing, if you're jealous, you can say it directly. There's no need to bring this up in front of my parents. I sneered dismissively. You dare do it, and now you don't want me to say anything? Otherwise, if I divorce you, they'll come in and criticize me without understanding the situation. How innocent will I look? Perhaps my words hit a nerve, and Jiang Xianyu visibly stiffened. Jiang Xianyu, are you really trying to play both sides? You're impossible. Jiang Xianyu's face alternated between green and pale with anger. Are you two getting a divorce? Father Jiang came downstairs, his emotions swirling beneath a calm facade. Jiang Xianyu raised her head. Dad, Tang Qi is back, and I'm definitely going to be with him. This matter is non-negotiable. Father Jiang furrowed his brows. You've been married to him for 3 years, and yet doesn't he compare to Tang Qi? I sat back with my legs crossed, quietly listening. Father Jiang was on my side, but facing Jiang Xianyu's firm attitude, he couldn't help but feel frustrated, powerless. He abandoned you 3 years ago. Why would you still want someone like that? Jiang Xianyu replied seriously. Tang Qi left because he was diagnosed with stomach cancer 3 years ago, and at that time our company was in financial trouble. He didn't want to drag me down, so he went abroad. Father Jiang sneered. So now that he knows you're rich, he comes back. He certainly knows how to assess the situation. Father Jiang despised people like that. Jiang Xianyu seemed a bit displeased. Dad, don't say that about him. I want to spend the rest of his life with him. I curled my lips in a cold smile. Look at their sweet love 3 years without forgetting him. He left for her own good, and now it's late-stage stomach cancer, the perfect first love narrative. If I don't leave now, I just look like I'm the one who doesn't understand. Chapter 3, So, you've been kicked out. Father Jiang was so furious that he nearly had a heart attack. He looked at me and asked for my opinion. Fuxing, if you're unwilling, I definitely won't let her act so recklessly. I hid all the pain in my heart and smiled faintly. We're both adults, and we should be able to make our own judgments. Whoever we like, we know in our hearts. Since there is no love left, there is no need to hold on. Jiang Xianyu looked at me in surprise. Father Jiang sighed and didn't say anything more. After all, the children were grown and could make their own decisions. Jiang Xianyu took me to the garden for a private conversation. She looked at me with disdain and got straight to the point. I know you brought this up in front of my parents to get more money from me. Just say what else you want. I tightened my lips, suddenly feeling like a joke. I leaned against the tree and looked at the elegant woman standing beneath it. Her figure was graceful, with an aura of independence and aloofness. You should know what I've wanted these past 3 years. Jiang Xianyu frowned, clearly displeased. What are you daydreaming about? Daydreaming? I clicked my tongue and spread my hands, but now that it's all dirty, I don't want it anymore. I, Zhang Fuxing, am not someone who can't walk away. You don't have to keep insulting me with money. I only take what I'm owed. Stop looking at me with those eyes, like you're doing me a favor. 3 years what I gave was my heart, my detachment from society, and my departure from my old circle of friends. All of this, bought off with money, was Jiang Xianyu's style. My marriage had failed to such an extent it was humiliating beyond belief. Jiang Xianyu stared at me in shock, momentarily speechless. In the 3 years of our marriage, I had bowed and scraped before her. Even knowing that she had someone else in her heart, I pretended to be magnanimous and acted like I didn't see it. I was obedient, sensible, the man behind a successful woman. She didn't want me at her social events, so I stayed away, almost completely catering to her every whim. I sneered bitterly. At dinner, the atmosphere around the table was suffocating, until Father Jiang spoke up. Fuxing, would you like to come back to work at the company? The vice president position has always been reserved for you. Jiang Xianyu was the first to express her discontent. Dad, he hasn't worked for 3 years. Even if he had the ability before, he probably can't do it anymore. Father Jiang shot her a glare. Shut up. Jiang Xianyu bit her lip. I raised my head. No need, thank you for the offer. Father Jiang sighed, his face full of concern. After dinner, I left directly. Back home, I started packing my things, planning to move out. Jiang Xianyu hadn't returned. I figured she was out with some friends, probably with Tang Qi by her side. After packing, I headed to my friend's studio. This studio had originally been a joint venture, but I stopped managing it after I got married. Still, I received dividends every month. Wait, am I seeing things? Is that Zhang Fuxing, alive and kicking? I couldn't help but twitch my lips, almost wanting to slap him. I'm back, and I'm not leaving for now. Find me a place to stay. Qinan walked over, sizing me up with a raised eyebrow. So, you've been kicked out. No longer the son-in-law of a wealthy family. I walked past him calmly. No longer. It's pointless. Coming back to work? I nodded. Qinan had managed the studio very well. I was making nearly 300,000 a month from it, and after all these years, I had saved quite a bit. I wanted to expand the studio. Chapter 4, already been abandoned. Qinan is an interior designer, and I know nothing about interior design. But when it comes to management and attracting investments, I'm very capable. The two of us, poor college students, were able to get the studio off the ground entirely because I secured the investments. Gradually, Qinan expanded the studio, and it gained a great reputation in the industry, no longer needing outside investors. Love may be gone, but at least in terms of career, I should be able to rise smoothly, right? Otherwise, life would be too unfair to me. When Qinan learned about my desire to expand, his eyes lit up, and he immediately sat beside me, saying, "There's a great opportunity right now, but it depends on whether you're willing to take it." I furrowed my brow. What opportunity? The aerospace tower is currently holding an open tender. If we can secure this deal, we won't have to worry about money for the next 5 years. The name aerospace tower sounded very familiar. It dawned on me that Jiang Xianyu had also been busy negotiating a partnership with the aerospace tower recently. And if it's between the company and the studio, any smart person would choose the company. Securing this deal would not be easy, especially since it would mean directly competing with Jiang Xianyu. I'll find a way to make it happen. You focus on your design. Qinan, curious, asked, "What's going on? I heard you two are getting divorced. You've always been so into her." I spoke casually, her white moonlight is back. Shouldn't I make room for them? If I kept clinging to her, I'd probably just get humiliated in the process. Qinan put his arm around me. Bro, I feel for you. Come on, let me take you out tonight. We won't stop until we're drunk. I rolled my eyes. The bar was noisy, but I quietly sat in a corner, watching the men and women in the dance floor, with no desires or expectations. Qinan was pulled away by someone, and I took a few sips of alcohol, immediately feeling discomfort in my stomach, a burning sensation. During the years I was with Jiang Xianyu, because she didn't like drinking, I had quit alcohol. But after drinking again, my stomach couldn't handle it. The pain seemed to soothe the occasional pang of bitterness in my heart, so I grabbed the bottle and drank it down in one go. Even though I tried to act indifferent, looking emotionless to make Jiang Xianyu uncomfortable, I wasn't feeling any better myself. I was just being more rational about it. I drank 2 bottles of alcohol and was about to open the third when suddenly a pair of feet landed on the coffee table in front of me. The man kicked over all the bottles in front of me.
Zhang Fuxing? Can't even live off a woman, so now you're drowning your sorrows in alcohol?
The bottles shattered on the floor, and I almost cut my hand on the broken glass. I lazily raised my eyes, my gaze cold. Oh, I thought it was someone important. Turns out it's just Jiang Xianyu's lifelong lackey. You dare insult me? I leaned back on the sofa, watching his legs still placed arrogantly on the coffee table. His condescending posture irritated me. I lifted my leg and kicked his ankle. He crashed to the floor in front of me. I smirked.
No need to be so ceremonious.
Bai Fan had always liked Jiang Xianyu, but his affection was fueled by the Jiang family's power. He wanted to latch onto it. Whenever we crossed paths, he liked to mock me, but typically Jiang Xianyu would warn him off. Now that she wasn't around, he probably thought I was easy to bully.
Zhang Fuxing, don't get cocky.
I'm telling you, Jiang Xianyu is treating Tang Qi really well now. In her eyes, you're nothing. I'll be waiting for the day you get abandoned. I had already been abandoned. He didn't need to wait for that. Chapter 5, Never Seen a Male, Green Tea. It bothered me that even when I went out for a drink, I ran into Jiang Xianyu's sycophants. I'd always been a joke in their eyes. At first, I thought that before the divorce, Jiang Xianyu and Tang Qi would try to keep things low-key. But the next day, whether in financial or entertainment news, headlines about Jiang Xianyu and Tang Qi were all over the place. Jiang Group's Li Feng International CEO spends a fortune just to make White Moonlight smile. CEO and White Moonlight share a candlelight dinner on a cruise. I woke up early in the morning to this news bombshell. I frowned, but surprisingly, I felt calm inside. I just saw it as a joke. As I went out for a meal, I noticed that Chinan had prepared nothing but green vegetables for me. My temples throbbed, and my stomach hurt even more.
Is it a crime to kill someone?
Right now, I felt like stabbing Chinan. Chinan laughed and dodged my glare. Then he looked at me seriously and said, "You've got to come up with a solution. Or are you going to find another woman and make her green too? Get lost." I looked at the table full of food with no appetite and said flatly, "Send me the information on the aerospace tower. I'll take a look." Sure, workaholic. For the next few days, I stayed indoors, but news about Jiang Xianyu and Tang Qi kept circulating online. I don't know if it was being intentionally put in front of me, but every time they appeared in public, they looked so sweet together. It only made me look more like a joke. The next time I saw Jiang Xianyu was at the aerospace tower's bidding gala. Chinan and I arrived early. After all, I'd been away from work for 3 years, and there were people I didn't recognize anymore. I needed him to help introduce me.
Zhang Fuxing, where's your wife?
People who were close to Jiang Xianyu recognized me, and when they saw me, their eyes were full of teasing. I pursed my lips and said directly, "Oh, we're about to get a divorce." As soon as I finished speaking, Jiang Xianyu entered, arm in arm with Tang Qi. I followed everyone's gaze.
Jiang Xianyu was nestled in Tang Qi's arms, looking like a delicate, charming woman.
There was none of the usual coldness she showed me. It's amazing how clear the difference is between loving someone and not loving them. I narrowed my eyes slightly, my expression cold, not at all as surprised or jealous as I had imagined I would be. When Jiang Xianyu saw me, she frowned and walked straight over. "What are you doing here? This gala wasn't organized by you.
Am I not allowed to come?"
My eyes drifted over their hands, still holding each other. Tang Qi awkwardly pulled his hand back and weakly said, "Mr. Zhang, sorry. I didn't mean it." I raised an eyebrow. I've seen female green tea, but I've never seen a male one.
You didn't mean it.
You've done it so many times before.
Now you come in front of me and say sorry?
Tang Qi, you're a lot more hypocritical than when we were in college. Tang Qi's face turned pale, and he looked like he might collapse at any moment. He let go of Jiang Xianyu. Ever since he was diagnosed with cancer, his body had become as fragile as a withering leaf. When he was upset, Jiang Xianyu naturally felt sorry for him. He's sick.
Zhang Fuxing, can you not speak so harshly?
I'm just speaking harshly, but the two of you really make me sick. If you think I'm wrong, feel free to refute me, but don't stand here showing off your love.
Jiang, as a big CEO, you can't seriously think cheating is something to be proud of, can you? I shrugged. I, for one, think being cuckolded is pretty shameful. Chapter 6, Who's letting me be a kept man? I had already agreed to divorce, and it was only a matter of time, just a month or so, but they couldn't even wait that long. They had to flaunt themselves in front of me, making sure I was embarrassed. After 3 years of enduring in Jiang Xianyu's shadow, I couldn't take it anymore. Tang Chi's eyes turned red as he apologized. It's my fault. 3 years ago, I shouldn't have left her. If I hadn't gotten cancer, I wouldn't have let her go to you. While he was trying to excuse himself and play the victim, he was also subtly suggesting that I was just the one who got lucky. Hearing that, I almost laughed. I shrugged. Did I give you cancer? Tang Chi froze. No. Did I force you to leave Jiang Xianyu? No, that's not it. Then why say you let her go to me? It's clear you didn't want her. You've been abroad for 3 years and still haven't improved. I bet it's already in the late stages now. Why come back? To make everyone pity your love story. Tang Chi, grow up. Stop being so childish. I'm not buying your act. I always spoke bluntly, and every word I said pierced straight into both of their hearts. Jiang Xianyu's brows furrowed deeply. Zhang Fuxing, even if you're jealous, you should know when to pick your battles. I sneered. We're getting a divorce, so why should I be jealous? The most I feel is that those 3 years, I truly fed them to the dogs. Jiang Xianyu's face turned green from my words. The look she gave me felt almost like that of a stranger. If they could have waited for the divorce to be finalized, I would have ignored their public displays of affection. But since the divorce wasn't finalized yet, and I was still Jiang Xianyu's official husband, their blatant behavior now made it seem like everyone knew I was the joke. I had been cuckolded, and all I could do was hold it in. Who told me I was a kept man? Jiang Xianyu, 3 years ago, it wasn't me who left you. And now, I'm not the one in the wrong. Maybe you should stop letting your love life completely cloud your judgment. With that, I grabbed Qinan and walked away. I didn't want to look at them for another second. It felt like I was dirtying my own eyes. After we moved far enough away, Qinan asked, your temper is exactly the same as in college. But how come during those 3 years of marriage, you were like a meat pigeon? That question caught me off guard, and after a long pause, I finally answered, I liked her. And once married, I kept thinking about the future. I didn't want Jiang Xianyu to feel wronged, so I ended up being the one who compromised. But once you start compromising for someone, it's easy to be led around. This is exactly why Jiang Xianyu dared to act so boldly. She thought I was easy to control and manipulate. Qinan chuckled. Did you see their faces just now? They looked like they swallowed shit. These two must have forgotten that in college, you single-handedly challenged the debate team and made them retreat for weeks. Qinan patted my shoulder, continuing to console me, don't be too upset. There are plenty of women out there. I rolled my eyes. Is that all you think about? What about the aerospace tower's director? I hadn't forgotten why I was here today. It wasn't to get into a shouting match with Tang Chi. The director of the aerospace tower was surrounded by people. I could hear a lot of flattering words from outside the crowd. Qinan whispered in my ear, can you flatter someone? When we meet the person, try saying a few nice things. I twitched my mouth in annoyance, but just as I was about to say something, the crowd parted and I finally saw the woman's face clearly. I froze for a moment. Fu Liuyan? Ex-boyfriend, long time no see. Her voice was filled with unmistakable venom. Chapter 7, Can't have the bowl and look at the pot. I was stunned for a moment, my head buzzing. Qinan nudged my arm. Damn. What kind of awful luck is this? Isn't this your ex-girlfriend, the one you dumped? I heard she even tried to commit suicide after the breakup. I furrowed my brows and turned to walk away. What was there to talk about work now? I was afraid I'd lose my temper and ruin everything. Fu Liuyan was an exchange student. The year she came to a university, I was in charge of managing the exchange students. At that time, I didn't know Jiang Xianyu yet, and I did date Fu Liuyan for 2 months. Just 2 months. Because 2 months later, Fu Liuyan left, and after that, I heard she had tried to commit suicide at school, had a leave of absence, and left the university.
I went to her school to find her, but was turned away. She even deleted all contact with me. As for why she tried to kill herself, that was debatable, but I was pretty sure it wasn't because of me. At least I had some self-awareness. I never expected the person behind the aerospace tower project, the one who had been kept so secret, would be Fu Liuyin. My head throbbed with pain. I took a few steps when someone grabbed my arm. I looked down and saw that it wasn't Qin's hand. The fingers were long, painted with red nail polish. Only Fu Liuyin liked red nail polish. I turned around to face her, frowning, my emotions complicated. Fu Liuyin smiled slightly. Ex-boyfriend, why are you running? Do you think I'll eat you? In front of everyone, she provocatively hooked her finger around mine. I noticed Jiang Xianyu walking toward us, so I quickly yanked my hand away. Fu Liuyin's hand was left hanging in the air. She raised an eyebrow and turned to Jiang Xianyu. CEO Jiang, long time no see. The two exchanged a brief handshake. Though it was only for a few seconds, I could feel the tension between them like a drawn sword. It was pretty scary. Women are like wolves, tigers, and leopards. I didn't want to get involved. I sent Qian a silent pleading look for help. But Qian didn't even glance at me. I cursed him for being so unhelpful. Fu Liuyin and Jiang Xianyu spoke a few words, all about work, until Fu Liuyin suddenly switched topics. I heard CEO Jiang found that short-lived white moonlight. Is that him? Jiang Xianyu frowned, a flash of displeasure in her eyes. But because of Fu Liuyin's position, she had to hold it in. CEO Fu, you're joking. Tang Qi walked over, and the four of us stood in a perfect storm of tension. I glanced at the time and said, I have to go, I have other things to do. Fu Liuyin grabbed my arm again. The bidding hasn't even started. Are you really leaving the business behind? Also, I'm short a male partner tonight. Would you do me the honor, ex-boyfriend? I twitched the corner of my mouth. CEO Fu, there's no need to keep mentioning ex-boyfriend. Fu Liuyin seemed oblivious to the darkening expression on Jiang Xianyu's face as she draped her arm around mine. But you are my ex-boyfriend. I think it sounds nice, makes you seem special. I gritted my teeth. This woman really couldn't be offended. I suddenly had a splitting headache. At this moment, Jiang Xianyu coldly spoke, Zhang Fuxing is my husband. If he's not going to be CEO Fu's male partner, perhaps you should choose someone else. Fu Liuyin just smiled. Well, this is interesting. CEO Jiang, as my ex-boyfriend's wife, is now being embraced by another man. What kind of logic is that? Besides, I'm just inviting him to dance. Why are you getting so angry? CEO Jiang wouldn't want to have the bowl and still look at the pot, would you? You can't expect to take all the good things for yourself. Chapter 8, Being Hit on by an Old Man. Jiang Xianyu was furious, raising her hand as if to slap Fu Liuyin. Fu Liuyin was standing up for me, so I couldn't just let her be slapped. I stepped forward quickly and grabbed Jiang Xianyu's wrist, frowning as I warned her, mind the occasion, if you don't want to embarrass yourself, calm down. My intervention only made Jiang Xianyu angrier, but she was clearly mindful of the people around us. Her expression kept changing, but she managed to suppress her rage. We'll see about this. She left with a cold remark. I sighed and allowed Fu Liuyin to pull me into the dance floor. I didn't know how to dance, and I stepped on Fu Liuyin's feet 3 times in a row. She couldn't take it anymore and snapped, Are you stepping on me to get revenge for Jiang Xianyu? I helplessly replied, No, I just don't know how to dance. Usually, when Jiang Xianyu went to events like this, she wouldn't let me come, fearing I'd embarrass her. I had learned to dance at one point, but back then, she danced with someone else. After that, I never practiced again. Didn't see the point? But now Fu Liuyin had pulled me onto the dance floor. Fu Liuyin frowned. Ex-boyfriend, it seems like you're not very happy after marrying Jiang Xianyu. There was a hint of schadenfreude in her words. I raised an eyebrow. Fu Liuyin, I have a name. I'm not just ex-boyfriend. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Jiang Xianyu's gaze was locked on me, her expression strange. Tang Qi was right next to her. She seemed completely unaware. After a few more missteps, Fu Liuyin gave up on dancing and dragged me to the bar. She wasn't a drinker before, and I instinctively tried to stop her, but then I realized I didn't really have the right to stop her, so I let it go. Fu Luyin was different now. She used to be shy and quiet, and people often said she was aloof and didn't fit in. But now she was handling the social scene with ease, downing one drink after another without showing any signs of getting drunk. I remembered when she confessed to me, she'd gotten drunk, knocked back one drink, then kept lying on me, saying how much she liked me and so on. Now, she could drink endlessly and stay sober. People do change, I guess. At that moment, someone grabbed my hand. I looked up and saw Jiang Xianyu. I naturally pulled my hand away and changed to a more comfortable sitting position, then asked, CEO Jiang, shouldn't you be with your white moonlight? Why come find me? Jiang Xianyu glanced at her empty hand, her brows furrowing deeply. What's your relationship with Fu Luyin? She's my ex-girlfriend. Jiang Xianyu's pupils shrank. You had a girlfriend before. Is that a problem? I was with Luyin before I even met you. By the time I met Jiang Xianyu, I was already pursuing a PhD, and Fu Luyin had long since disappeared from my life. It was a surprise to see her again. Jiang Xianyu opened her mouth, then reminded me, we're not divorced yet. Watch your actions. I smiled and suddenly grabbed her wrist, forcing her to lean in and look at me. I stared into her eyes. Watch my actions. What actions? I just danced a messy dance with her. Before you talk about me, shouldn't you reflect on what you did with Tang Chi? And all the love affair news that has been spreading online these past few days. Jiang Xianyu probably didn't expect me to be so direct. Her expression shifted instantly. You? What? I slowly let go of her, sneering. If you're done, you can leave. I'm worried your white moonlight might get jealous if you stay too long. Jiang Xianyu frowned but eventually walked away. I watched her retreating figure. She walked up to Tang Chi, supporting the frail man and whispering something in his ear. I didn't know what he said, but Jiang Xianyu's face flushed slightly, and she actually smiled quite sweetly. It seems only the white moonlight could make the Ice Queen soften like that. I slowly withdrew my gaze, smirking and taking a sip of my drink. Just then, I turned and saw Fu Luyin being hit on by an old man. Chapter 9. Are you still here for the first time? The other person held her with one hand and placed his other hand on her perky buttocks. Fu Luyin was obviously drunk and didn't resist. Seeing that the old man was about to take her away, I couldn't bear it anymore, so I just walked over and pulled her over. Because I used a little too much force, Fu Luyin suddenly fell into my arms, her warm breath spread on my neck, and her charming fragrance lingered around my nose, which made me suddenly stiff. Mr. Li, Mr. Fu, I'll take her away first. The old man dared to be angry but didn't dare to say anything. I took Fu Luyin to the hotel suite upstairs, put her on the bed and wanted to leave. But I didn't know where the drunk man got so much strength, and suddenly pressed me against the door. The impact on my back hurt me and I gasped. Fu Luyin opened her eyes and looked at me, her eyes were clear, without any drunkenness. My mouth twitched. Are you not drunk? This is my place, I may not have drunk alcohol. I only then smelled that she didn't smell any alcohol. I frowned and pushed her away forcefully. Fu Luyin, are you setting me up? Fu Luyin pouted, she looked at me innocently. I was going to let that person take me away, you misunderstood. I don't like this kind of scene. Then why do you hold a party? Isn't that a waste of effort? Fu Luyin smiled at me, and as she smiled, she couldn't help but take action. Her fingertips passed over my eyebrows, nose bridge, and finally landed on my lips. She looked like a female gangster. I frowned, turned sideways, and avoided her touch. Fu Luyin. I haven't divorced yet. Fu Luyin raised an eyebrow. She has cheated on you, you still want to keep your virginity. Isn't it inappropriate? I remember Jiang Xianyu has always been very proud, she shouldn't let you touch her. So, are you still here for the first time? Her hand hooked my belt and even tried to untie it. She was too bold, and she was completely different from before. She used to blush for a long time after kissing. I took a deep breath, stepped back, kept a safe distance of 1 meter from her, and said, Jiang Xianyu, cheating is her business, you can't ask me to be the same as her. Since you are not drunk, I will leave first. I touched the door handle, opened it and left without looking at Fu Luyin. In the corridor, I pinched my eyebrows, wondering why Fu Luyin was so different from before. But this is not something I should be curious about. After all, curiosity kills the cat. I pressed the elevator button, the elevator door opened, and Tang Chi's face appeared in front of me. I cursed and planned to take the next ride, but he came out and said to me, "Let's chat." He looked completely different from the weak one he had just shown in front of Jiang Xianyu. Could it be that the crying child gets candy? Jiang Xianyu likes weak people? Is there anything we can talk about? Yes, let's talk about Xianyu. I frowned, not wanting to talk to him about this topic. No, if you want it, I'll give it to you. You don't have to say those angry words. I know you like Xianyu too. I'm in the late stage of gastric cancer now. I hope that after I die, you can help me take good care of her. She will definitely not be able to bear it. I felt hot on my forehead when I heard these tea-like words. I said angrily, I see that you are so good at talking, you should be a disaster for thousands of years, and you don't have to worry about your own death. Tang Chi's face changed slightly. Mr. Jiang, can you not be so hostile to me? I didn't mean to compete with you, I just wanted to accompany her at the last moment of my life. I was so angry that I laughed. What's the point of accompanying? Since you left back then, you should have left far away. Why are you being pitiful? Jiang Xianyu will fall for your tricks, but I won't. You'd better take care of yourself. Xiaodao is really a butt. You opened your eyes. How come you became her white moonlight? Trash. Chapter 10. I feel sick when I look at her for one more time. Zhang Fuxing. Sure enough, just as I expected, every time at this time, Jiang Xianyu always appears, as if she is the flower protector, and Tang Chi is that flower. What about me? I am the hateful flower destroyer. She walked past me, held Tang Chi's hand, and glared at me angrily. I have to admit that when Jiang Xianyu's eyes were wide open, she exuded a cold beauty that was fascinating. Please be gentle with your words. I don't want to hear you say that about Tang Chi again. After being angry at me, she immediately changed her face and became gentle and charming. Tang Chi, why did you come here like this? I looked for you everywhere. Tang Chi coughed twice in cooperation, looking very weak. I couldn't help but sneer. I'm just walking around. I think Mr. Jiang has some misunderstandings about me. After a long time of contact, the misunderstanding will be resolved. I felt angry and amused. The two of them were being affectionate in bed, and I was also a misunderstanding. What does the word misunderstanding mean in his dictionary? I held back my anger and snorted with contempt. Sorry, I feel sick when I look at you for a second now. I hope there will be no intersection in the future. Contact. I'm really afraid that I will be sick to death. Enough. Jiang Xianyu shouted, her face flushed. Can't you say less? I suddenly felt depressed and smiled bitterly. Don't worry, you won't hear me talk so much again. I didn't want to see them and turned to leave. Wait. Jiang Xianyu suddenly stopped me, rushed in front of me, and stared at me with sharp eyes. What is your relationship with Fu Yuyan? I answered her openly, she is my ex-girlfriend. Is it that simple? Jiang Xianyu's black and white eyes revealed suspicion, and her eyebrows twisted slightly in doubt. I glanced at Tang Chi with contempt and sneered, how complicated can it be? Do you think I'm the same as you two? Jiang Xianyu bit her red lips, and I thought she would scold me, but she just warned, stay away from her. I was confused. Only the officials are allowed to set fires, but the people are not allowed to light lamps. You're already like this with him, why do you still care who I'm with? You have no right to interfere with who I'm close to or far from in the future. You? Jiang Xianyu was very angry, her eyes full of disbelief, her chest heaving violently. How can you talk to me in this tone? I've been obedient to her for 3 years, and she's used to it. Of course, she's not used to the docile kitten suddenly turning into an aggressive tiger. What makes me despise myself is that when I see the grievance in her eyes, my heart actually hurts a little. Tell me if you're cheap, Zhang Fuxing. Mr. Jiang, I just softened my heart, and Tang Chi's voice made me angry again. He came over and deliberately held Jiang Xianyu's hand in front of me, showing a righteous expression. You can come to me if you have any dissatisfaction, but don't hurt Xianyu. Oh my god. Who hurt who? Who wants to chat with me? I wish I could stay away from them now. At this moment, Fu Liuyan's voice came from behind me, clear and pleasant. Ex-boyfriend, who have you hurt again? Isn't it enough that you hurt me in the room just now? Before I could react, her slender jade hand hooked my waist. I noticed that Jiang Xianyu's eyes suddenly became sharp, scanning back and forth between me and Fu Liuyin. I hurriedly glared at Fu Liuyin. How did I hurt you? Fu Liuyin smiled. We had such a good chat, you left without saying goodbye, isn't it hurting me? Zhang Fuxing, why did you go to her room? Jiang Xianyu asked loudly. I seemed to hear jealousy in her voice, and I found it very funny. I was about to explain, but Fu Liuyin said first, when an ex-girlfriend is with an ex-boyfriend, of course they are reminiscing about the romantic times they had together. Otherwise, what does Miss Jiang think we can do? Chapter 11. The Jiang family's image has long been gone. Jiang Xianyu blushed, probably thinking that what she said just now was a bit out of control. She raised her chin slightly and restored the cold attitude she usually showed in front of me. I just want to remind you to pay attention to the impact. If it gets out, it will damage the image of our Jiang family. Jiang Xianyu and I haven't completed the divorce procedures yet. I am still a member of the Jiang family. If I have a scandal, it will certainly affect the image of the Jiang family. But what annoys me is that Jiang Xianyu has no right to say this. As for the image of the Jiang family, it was already damaged when you and your white moonlight walked into this hotel. Jiang Xianyu was a little confused. What do you mean? Fu Liuyin's eyes fell on the tightly clasped hands of Jiang Xianyu and Tang Qi, and laughed. I heard that Miss Jiang was going to divorce my ex-boyfriend, but before the divorce is officially announced, Miss Jiang doesn't need to be so anxious to show her affection with other men, right? If it gets out, I'm afraid people who don't know the truth will say. Fu Liuyin deliberately hesitated. What will they say? Jiang Xianyu asked hurriedly. They will say that Miss Jiang was fickle and dumped my ex-boyfriend first. Fu Liuyin finished speaking and laughed twice, as if she was just joking. At this time, I saw that Jiang Xianyu's hand seemed to be electrocuted, and she hurriedly shook off Tang Qi's hand. No matter how much she loved her white moonlight, she couldn't ignore the image of the family. Fu Liuyin's words were very euphemistic. To put it bluntly, she was scolding Jiang Xianyu for cheating in marriage. Although I don't like Fu Liuyin's ex-boyfriends, she finally helped me vent my anger, and I am still very grateful to her. Maybe Jiang Xianyu found that her mouth was not as poisonous as Fu Liuyin's, and the aerospace building project was in Fu Liuyin's hands, so she could only hold her anger in her stomach. Tang Qi, let's go. When passing by, Tang Qi politely nodded to Fu Liuyin and me. Miss Fu, Mr. Zhang, goodbye. I immediately replied, he is dying, I don't want to see him again, so as not to have nightmares at night. If it is true as he said, he has late-stage lung cancer and doesn't have much time left. He is now a dead face. Who wants to see a dead face again? Tang Qi's expression stiffened instantly, and he pulled the corners of his mouth in self-mockery, and followed Jiang Xianyu. Fu Liuyin laughed, and her smile was so charming. I was in a trance, as if I was back to the flowers and the moon that year. What are you laughing at? I quickly came to my senses. Let the past be the past. I, Zhang Fuxing, am not the kind of person who loves laughing at you for being different from before. When did your mouth become so venomous? Fu Liuyin stared at me, as if something was wrong with me. I sighed with emotion. It's not just me who is different from before. Fu Liuyin used to be more introverted, but now she dares to speak and act. I can't help but wonder what caused her to change so much. Fu Liuyin realized that I was examining her and lowered her head slightly. It's impolite to stare at a lady like this. I half-jokingly said, aren't you my ex-girlfriend? Fu Liuyin smiled, left a word and went back to the room, not giving me a chance to refuse. If you want to win the aerospace building project, accompany me to their horse farm the day after tomorrow. I can't figure out what the necessary connection is between the project and a horse farm. The only explanation is that Fu Liuyin may want to relive the old dream with me. But after what happened with Jiang Xianyu and Tang Qi, I really didn't have the energy to spend on love affairs. Just like Tyan said, I am a workaholic. What made me get over my last relationship was not a new love, but work. When I was struggling whether to go to their horse farm, Tyan called and asked me to go back. I came to the underground parking lot and found Tyan. Just as I was about to get in the car and leave, Jiang Xianyu and Tang Qi happened to be in the parking lot. Before Jiang Xianyu came over, she shouted at me. Zhang Fuxing, what do you mean? Chapter 12, Please respect yourself, Madam Tang. Tyan coughed and got into the car cunningly. Jiang Xianyu and I are still husband and wife in name, and Tyan doesn't want to get involved in our marital conflict.
What's more, there is another one, my ex-girlfriend Fu Liuyin. I glanced at Jiang Xianyu, and the corners of my mouth couldn't help but curl up as Tang Chi followed her. If you are referring to Fu Liuyin, I have already made it very clear. I don't want to waste my breath anymore, and you don't have to ask endless questions. I opened the car door and Jiang Xianyu grabbed my arm. Don't leave until you make it clear. I squinted and stared coldly at her little hand holding mine, which was so white that I could hardly see a pore. In those 3 years of suffering, she didn't touch me once. In her eyes, I was just a lowly male nanny. Please respect yourself, Madam Tang. Take your hand away. My cold attitude made Jiang Xianyu very uncomfortable. A rich girl, who has been hearing sweet words and all kinds of flattery since she was a child, must be unbearable for her. How am I disrespectful? Don't forget, you are still my husband. Perhaps it was because of this that Tang Chi quickened his pace and pinched Jiang Xianyu's shoulders with both hands, saying to me, Xianyu just wants to accompany me for the last time. The term Madam Tang is too heavy. Xianyu and I are impossible, but Xianyu is still yours. I think Tang Chi is eager for Jiang Xianyu to call herself Madam Tang in front of everyone. That's why he deliberately played hard to get and let Jiang Xianyu express her attitude. But to his disappointment, Jiang Xianyu stammered for a while, and finally just said, Tang Chi, don't say that. Accompany me for the last time. I think people who can say such words have to be very thick-skinned. Finally, I stayed with you until the bed. At this moment, I saw Tian in the car from the corner of my eye, so I didn't say the following words. But Jiang Xianyu was already blushing. Zhang Fuxing, shut up. A dog can't spit out ivory. I said, a dog can't spit out ivory, which means that the dog is honest. Unlike some people, it's clearly whining without illness. Tang Chi was really cooperative. As soon as I finished speaking, he coughed twice lightly, as if he wanted the whole world to know that he had lung cancer and would die soon. If I were him, I would definitely stay at home at this time. Jiang Xianyu couldn't stand her white moonlight being wronged, and shouted at me, do you still have any conscience? Tang Chi has become like this, and you still ridicule him for whining without illness. After taking a good look at Tang Chi, I asked coldly, what has he become? I have never seen a person who is about to die running around. Puff. Tian couldn't hold it in and covered his mouth and laughed secretly. Tang Chi clarified, it is precisely because I am running out of time and I have less and less time with Jiang Xianyu that I have to cherish every minute and every second with her. Originally, I didn't want to expose them in front of Tian, but the words of the dying man in front of me were so funny and ridiculous that I couldn't help but say. You cherish every minute and every second of each other so much that you even have to sleep together, right? I noticed that Tian's pupils were dilated. He certainly couldn't imagine that the real reason for my divorce was that Jiang Xianyu slept with another man. But I regretted it after I said it. The name of being cuckolded is really not nice. So, I quickly glared at Tian and told him with my eyes that this matter must not be told to anyone. Watch your mouth. Jiang Xianyu raised her hand to hit me, but when she saw the cold anger in my eyes, she was scared and put her hand down. Okay, I don't want to pursue your relationship with Fu Liuyin anymore. But why do you want the aerospace building project? To get revenge on me, right? Chapter 13. You don't deserve it. I spread my hands to show that I am above board. I, Zhang Fuxing, have never done anything shameful. I came here purely for business purposes. You want to make money, and I want to make money too. Is that wrong? After a pause, I sneered, you talk about revenge. I can only say that you don't deserve it. You are rebellious. Jiang Xianyu was shaking with anger. Don't think that she will give you the project just because you are Fu Liuyin's ex-boyfriend. Women who do business only have money in their eyes. I don't believe that our Jiang's company is not as good as your small studio. If she chooses you, she must be crazy. So, I advise you not to waste your time on her. Otherwise, you will lose both your money and your life. I pondered her words for a while, then shook her hand away and got into the car. Since you said Fu Liuyin would not choose my studio, I have to contact her. Even if the project fails, there is no loss in revisiting the old dream with her. You. Jiang Xianyu stamped her feet. Zhang Fuxing, I say it again, before we officially divorce, you are not allowed to contact her again. Do you understand? I smiled slightly and slowly closed the car window. She asked me to go to the horse farm the day after tomorrow to discuss the aerospace building project with me. I have agreed to go with her. Tian, drive.
I stepped on the accelerator and the car drove out slowly. From the rearview mirror, I could still see Jiang Xianyu's angry look. Are you really going to the horse farm? Tycoon glanced at me. Your ex-girlfriend asked you to go horse riding. It feels very ambiguous. After 3 cups of light wine, it's easy to accidentally fire a gun and have sex after drinking. Get lost. I gave him a death stare. By the way, you kept what you said just now to yourself. If I knew who you told it to, I would be dead. Tycoon smiled and said, don't you know me? But then again, I didn't expect Jiang Xianyu to be such a person. Maybe he saw that I was unhappy and hurriedly shut up. I tried my best to focus on the aerospace building project. I didn't want to go to their horse farm at first, but when I thought about how she didn't treat me as her husband in the past 3 years, I had to go anyway. Revenge, Jiang Xianyu. Tycoon agreed with my approach. A true gentleman must take revenge. But I shook my head and looked out the window. The scenes of being humble and lowly for the past 3 years entered my mind. It's not revenge, it's just taking back what originally belonged to me. Revenge is narrow-minded, but regaining self-esteem and proving oneself are very different. On the day I was going to the racecourse, I wanted to drive Tycoon's car, so I borrowed the key from him. I have been in the Jiang family for 3 years. The old man of the Jiang family has been good to me and has given me several luxury cars. But I didn't drive out when I left the Jiang family that day, otherwise Jiang Xianyu would not know how to look at me again. After the matter is over, remember to clean my car? Don't leave any odor. Tycoon stared at the computer screen and drew CG pictures, while joking with me at the right time. I thought about his words for a while, understood, and punched him directly on his fat back. Get lost. Tycoon grimaced in pain and scolded me. You are so cruel, Fu Yuyan must scream like a pig being slaughtered. Don't be so mean, Zuiman. I ignored him after saying this and went to the garage to get the car when my cell phone rang. I picked it up and saw that it was Fu Yuyan calling as expected. Don't rush me, I'm going out. Fu Yuyan's pleasant voice was on the other end of the phone. You don't have to drive, I'll pick you up. Chapter 14. Teach me to ride a horse. I don't want to trouble her, and more importantly, I don't want to get too close to her. What's past is past. I'll drive myself, you just wait for me at the horse farm. I'm already outside your community, come out. As soon as she finished speaking, she hung up the phone without giving me a chance to refuse. I was very surprised. How could Fu Yuyan know my address? With this question, I walked to the gate of the community. Beep. 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 A red Porsche sports car was honking its horn, the bright and clean window rolled down, and Fu Yuyan waved at me wearing sunglasses. The black Porsche sunglasses formed a sharp contrast with her snow-white skin. At this moment, I suddenly remembered a sentence, a beautiful car goes with a beautiful woman. How do you know I live here? I asked, standing in front of her car window. Her sexy red lips were hooked up, like a crescent moon, very beautiful. I want to get you back, of course I have to know every bit of you. I didn't feel happy at all, and made a gesture to leave. If you ask me to go to their horse farm just to restore our previous relationship, then I won't go. Hey, you are going to be my partner, I have to know a little about you, right? Fu Yuyan took off her sunglasses and tried to let me see her sincere eyes. If there is a problem with the project one day, I don't know where you live, how can I find you? The reason was not very sufficient, but for the project I chose to turn a blind eye. She patted the passenger seat, but I opened the door of the back seat and sat on it. Ex-boyfriend, is it necessary to stay so far away from me? Fu Yuyan smiled slightly. I said, I am still married to Jiang Xianyu. If the paparazzi take pictures of us sitting in the front row, it will have a bad impact. At this time, I found that she was observing me through the rearview mirror, and my heart couldn't help but jump. I haven't felt this way for a long time. People have kicked you out and found a new love, but you still regard yourself as the son-in-law of the Jiang family. Don't you think you are a bit of that? Fu Yuyan said, wearing sunglasses, as if to cover up something. What she meant by that was cheap. I didn't feel ashamed, but smiled bitterly. Because she was right, I was really cheap in the past 3 years. So, a man like me is not worthy of anyone's love. My words were very clear, whether Fu Yuyan listened to it or not was another matter. While driving, she dialed a number. The phone was connected. Hello? Mr. Fu, what's the matter? I was surprised, it was Jiang Xianyu. Her tone was very stiff, and she was still angry about Fu Yuyan and I being together that day.
I stared at Fu Liuyan in confusion, wondering what she meant by calling Jiang Xianyu at this time. Ms. Jiang, I have an appointment with your ex-husband to go to their horse farm. Is it convenient for you to come? I will talk to you about the aerospace building project at that time. Fu Liuyan deliberately turned on the hands-free so that I could hear Jiang Xianyu's voice. It can be heard that Jiang Xianyu is very angry about the word ex-husband, but she tried her best to restrain her anger. We haven't officially divorced yet, so the word ex-husband is not appropriate here. Besides, didn't you give him the project internally? Why did you ask me to come over? Fu Liuyan looked back at me proudly. Compare 3 companies. Only by comparison can I know which one of you is better. Also, what you said about internal appointment is not accurate. Only when Mr. Zhang becomes my husband or lover and I give the project to him can it be called internal appointment. Her words sounded like an ultimatum to Jiang Xianyu. She was going to start pursuing me, Zhang Fuxing. I gave her a fierce look, but she stared ahead and pretended not to see it. Jiang Xianyu was silent for a long time before she replied, "Okay, I'll leave now." As soon as the phone hung up, I immediately leaned over and questioned Fu Liuyan, "Didn't you say that if I came to their horse farm to accompany you to ride horses, you would give me the project? What do you mean by calling Jiang Xianyu?" Chapter 15 Let go of your hand quickly. Fu Liuyan replied indifferently, "Didn't I say, shop around?" I was deceived by her. Why didn't I realize that Fu Liuyan was such a woman who didn't keep her word before? "Stop the car, I'll get off." She didn't do what I said, but said, "As long as you promise me one thing, I'll give you the project." What is it? I had a feeling that she wouldn't make easy conditions. "Teach me to ride horses, and I'll give you the project." This can't be easier for you, right? Fu Liuyan said with a smile. I am a terrible dancer, but I am really good at horse riding. After so many years, Fu Liuyan still remembers that I have this strong point. I can't help but feel a little warm in my heart. But the warmth disappeared after a little thought. I will teach you horse riding, and you give me the project. What about Jiang Xianyu? Fu Liuyan spread her free hand, she can do whatever she wants. Seeing that I was hesitant, she added, "Don't you want to show off in front of her? She just kicked you and thought you were useless, but you immediately got a big project. She must be gnashing her teeth." As she said that, Fu Liuyan actually laughed happily, heartlessly. I was very puzzled. Did Fu Liuyan do all this just to help me save face? In doubt and anxiety, the car arrived at the horse farm in the suburbs. The parking lot was full of cars worth tens of millions. Those who came here to play were either rich or noble. When Fu Liuyan got off the car, I noticed that she was wearing a black halter neck, backless, tight-fitting, hip-wrapped skirt today, which was very eye-catching and sexy. Because of this, many men who came here to play all looked at us. But for me, it was not a glorious thing. In the hotel the day before yesterday, I had already told many people that Jiang Xianyu and I were going to divorce. At this time, these business leaders saw me and Fu Liuyan together and made all kinds of speculations. It turns out that he and Jiang Xianyu are really divorced. But they haven't officially announced it yet. Jiang Xianyu appeared in public with a strange man, and Zhang hooked up with Fu Liuyan right after. How could such an excellent woman like Jiang Xianyu like a loser like him? I think they agreed to divorce a long time ago, but they didn't announce it earlier because of the image of the Jiang family. I have to say that Zhang is born to be a gigolo. His ex was the daughter of the Jiang family, and now he is on the list of strong women. Fu Liuyan. How can he be so lucky? What's the difference between him and me? All kinds of unpleasant comments, although they were whispered, but I heard them all. However, I can tolerate Jiang Xianyu and Tang Qi rolling in the sheets, and these criticisms in front of me are just a drop in the bucket for me. At this time, I felt my arm warm, and hurriedly looked down. Fu Liuyan actually hooked my hand in public. My ears immediately burned. We can't let their comments come true, we will slap ourselves in the face. What are you doing? Let go of your hand. Everyone is watching. Fu Liuyan said nonchalantly, "Just watch. Jiang Xianyu can hold Tang Qi's hand, why can't you hold mine? You should tell them that it's not you who made the mistake first when the marriage has problems. Why can't I show it?" I thought about it and felt that what Fu Liuyan said made sense. Anyway, in their eyes, I have already become a gigolo. My divorce with Jiang Xianyu has already exploded in the business world. Jiang Xianyu made me so embarrassed the day before yesterday, why can't I disgust her? Just then, a luxury car slowly drove into the parking lot.
I only took a glance to know that it was the Jiang family's car. I heard that it cost millions just a bit for that license plate. The car window was pulled down, revealing Jiang Xianyu's beautiful and gloomy face. She muttered a few times. Although I didn't hear the sound, based on the shape of her mouth, I guessed that she was warning me, keep your distance from Fu Liuyin. Chapter 16. Aren't you ashamed? I was about to take Fu Liuyin's hand away, and when I looked over Jiang Xianyu's shoulders, I saw that disgusting face. Tang Chi smiled at me. I didn't know if he was laughing at me or saying hello to me. I was so angry that I deliberately pulled Fu Liuyin closer to me, and Jiang Xianyu's pupils dilated. After parking the car, the staff of the horse farm led us to the VIP room. Wait for me, I'll change clothes, Fu Liuyin said, and went to the locker room. When the locker room was opened again, Fu Liuyin in front of me made my eyes light up. Their white and black riding suit made her look beautiful and cool. I have to admit that I was moved at this moment and wanted to hug her in my arms. Am I beautiful? Fu Liuyin asked me arrogantly. I looked away and looked at the horse farm through the window. When did you like riding horses? I avoided the question. I've liked you since the day I met you. Fu Liuyin walked towards me and lifted my chin with a whip. Why don't you dare look at me? I'm too beautiful, are you worried that you can't control yourself? I took her whip away and said unhappily, aren't you ashamed to praise yourself for being beautiful? What's there to be ashamed of? Fu Liuyin smiled with watery eyes, shining brightly, very beautiful, many men say I'm beautiful, this is a fact. My pupils shrank, have you been with many men? What made me very upset was that Fu Liuyin could always turn from passive to active. Facing my questioning, she asked lightly, what, are you jealous? Being stared at by her, I felt very uncomfortable and tried to reach out to push her away, but she deliberately grabbed my hand and pulled me down on the sofa, forming a man on top and woman on bottom. She held my face and kissed me, like a female gangster. I finally struggled to get out and take a breath, and pinched her chin to prevent her from attacking again. Are you here to subdue and seduce all the men you cooperate with in business? Fu Liuyin's mouth curled up a trace of coldness, none of those stinky men is worth my second look. My heart was warmed again, and my hand subconsciously loosened her chin. I came to the racecourse with you to discuss the aerospace building project. Apart from that, I don't want to talk. I hope you understand this. After saying that, I quickly stood up from her and tidied my clothes. I am a man, and it is impossible for me to have no physiological reaction when lying on a beautiful and cool woman. If the staff of the racecourse or anyone else came in and saw it at this time, it would be embarrassing. Fu Liuyin sat up, and her tight trousers and long boots highlighted her slender thighs. She was not angry about my indifference, but looked at me more obsessed. Since you mentioned the project, I'll tell you the truth. What advantages does your studio have that can overwhelm a company as big as Jiang's? I pondered for a while, and a chill passed through my heart. Our studio is indeed not as good as their big company. So, why should I give you the project? Fu Liuyin's words were like a soul-searching question. I was silent for a long time, unable to answer her question. If someone else was in charge of the aerospace building project, not Fu Liuyin, I could use various methods to get close to the person in charge, but the problem is that the person in charge now is Fu Liuyin, my ex-girlfriend. What means can I use against Fu Liuyin? You are a smart person, Fu Liuyin continued. If you are not strong enough, then use some asymmetric means, such as social skills. I am your ex-girlfriend, why don't you use this relationship? I felt humiliated, so I said seriously, do you mean that as long as I sleep with you, you will give me the project? You are so harsh. Fu Liuyin flicked the whip in his hand. I said, as long as you teach me how to ride a horse, I will give you the project. It's that simple. Chapter 17. A good horse never turns back. Of course, what she called simple is not simple. She didn't just give me the project because of her ex-boyfriend, but she wanted to develop with me. I don't want to think too much about the future. What she said just now makes sense. In terms of strength, how can the studio compare with big companies? If it were other supervisors, they would definitely give the project to Jiang Xianyu without hesitation. Now it's a godsend opportunity. The person in charge of the project is my ex-girlfriend. Why don't I use this relationship? Business is like a battlefield. If you simply think that all commercial competition depends on strength, it would be too naive. You called Jiang Xianyu here, how do you answer her? I asked worriedly. That's my business. Fu Liuyan stretched out the whip towards me. Have you promised to teach me how to ride a horse? I nodded. Then change your clothes. Fu Liuyan's bright eyes moved, looking me from head to toe, with lust in her eyes. You must be very handsome in riding clothes. I'm sure Jiang Xianyu will regret it when she sees you in riding clothes. I smiled sadly. She only has that half-dead Bai Yue Guang in her heart now, how can she regret it? Besides, one of my principles of zhongfuxing is that a good horse will never eat grass again. Really? Fu Liuyan's eyes suddenly showed a shadow. In order to avoid this question, I walked away under the pretext of changing clothes. When I changed my clothes and came out of the dressing room, Fu Liuyan was no longer in the VIP room. I thought she should have gone to choose a horse. I drank a sip of tea to moisten my throat and walked out of the VIP room. Passing by another VIP room, the door was ajar, and I could see the sofa inside. What made me sick was that the sick man Tang Chi was actually pressing Jiang Xianyu, panting in an ambiguous way. Don't do that, people will see you. I don't have much time left, Xianyu. You can do whatever you want when you go home, but it's not convenient here. I still have to talk to Fu Liuyan about the project. At this time, Tang Chi said, since Fu Liuyan is Zhang Fuxing's ex-girlfriend, it seems that she is determined to hand over the project to Zhang Fuxing. So, you have to start with Zhang Fuxing and give him conditions to make him withdraw from the competition. In this way, Fu Liuyan will have no choice but to give you the project. Jiang Xianyu caressed Tang Chi's face lovingly, grateful, my dear, although you are not in good health, your brain is still so smart. If you don't have this disease, help me manage the company's performance will definitely be even better. Tang Chi smiled slightly, I wish I could take over all the company's affairs, so that you don't have any worries or pressure. I couldn't help it, knocked on the door, and said, I'm afraid this last sentence is the purpose of your return to Jiang Xianyu. The two immediately stood up from the sofa and tidied their clothes. Jiang Xianyu was embarrassed and annoyed, and pulled me into the VIP room. How can you be so shameless that you actually peeked outside? I sneered, you show your affection everywhere, do you still need me to peek? Tang Chi coughed twice at the right time. Mr. Zhang, what do you mean by that sentence just now? I asked him back, you should understand better than anyone else, right? He left Jiang Xianyu when Jiang's was on the verge of bankruptcy. Now that Jiang's business is booming, he returned to Jiang Xianyu. I don't know if it was because of the lung cancer he mentioned, but the timing of his return is indeed intriguing. Perhaps because he was guilty, his chestnut eyes were slightly evasive, and he pulled the corner of his mouth. I really don't understand what Mr. Zhang is talking about. After saying that, he coughed twice again. This made Jiang Xianyu feel distressed, and she blamed me, don't you know that Tang Chi is sick? Why do you have to provoke him with such sarcastic words? I touched my chest, I only now know where his disease is. I didn't want to see them show their affection, so I turned around and left. My 3 years of silent dedication were nothing in Jiang Xianyu's eyes. In 3 years, not only did I not win a place in her heart, but she also disgusted me and thought I was a gigolo. How sad, how pitiful. Don't leave, apologize to Tang Chi. Jiang Xianyu actually shouted at me, which made me very surprised and annoyed. And next to him was Tang Chi, the sick husband who kept coughing. Chapter 18 Who is blind? 3 years of hard work is not as good as a sick man's cough. Jiang Xianyu and I face each other, staring at her bright eyes and white teeth with burning eyes. Why should I apologize to him? Just because I told the truth. What truth? Jiang Xianyu certainly didn't expect that I would dare to look at her with such an oppressive gaze, which made her embarrassed. What nonsense are you talking about? Apologize quickly, or don't even think about leaving. After she finished speaking, she actually grabbed my sleeve with her hand. I raised my mouth with contempt. It's impossible to apologize to him, I will never apologize to anyone again in this life. Take your hand away. My cold eyes fell on her petite white hand, don't think I dare not hit you. Her charming face turned pale. What? You dare to hit me. I'll count to 3, you can wait and see. I didn't show my anger on my face, but I was indeed furious. 3 years of enduring humiliation and bearing heavy burdens did not exchange for her apology, but she asked me to apologize to the person she cheated with. 1. Tang Chi hurried over to pull Jiang Xianyu away and continued to play the role of a good guy. Xianyu, it's all my fault. If I hadn't come back, you and Mr. Zhang wouldn't have gotten into this mess. He said to me again, Mr. Zhang, for the sake of your marriage, you should give the aerospace building project to Xianyu. As long as you withdraw, Fu Liuyin will definitely give the project to Xianyu. Can't 3 years of marriage get a project? I guess Tang Chi is secretly happy now. The words sound very nice and friendly, but every word is mocking me. Is it your turn to interrupt about the project? You are dying, say less, maybe you can live a few more days. Zhang Fuxing, shut up. Jiang Xianyu shouted. I snorted disdainfully, you are no longer qualified to tell me to shut up. You are nothing to me now. I have secured the aerospace building project. You have no chance at all. Jiang Xianyu may not know what to say to me, so she said, you, a small studio, want to compete with my Jiang group. What a joke. I raised my eyebrows and said proudly, what makes you grit your teeth is that the project manager is my ex-girlfriend. She has agreed to give me the project for the sake of our past relationship. Impossible. Jiang Xianyu shuddered, even if she agrees to you, I have a way to make her cancel the cooperation with you. I will use the power of Jiang Group to put pressure on her. I will tell the merchants and customers who cooperate with Jiang Group that they can only choose between Jiang Group and Fu Liuyin. I couldn't help but frown. Businessmen always value profit over loyalty. Even if Fu Liuyin wants to give me the project, she still has the major directors of Fu Group behind her. Those directors definitely don't want Fu Group and Jiang Group to have conflicts. Can Fu Liuyin withstand the pressure from the directors? Even if she could bear it, I didn't want her to bear such great pressure. I was caught in a dilemma. It's so lively, what are you talking about? Fu Liuyi's high leather boots made a clacking sound on the floor, which was crisp and pleasant. She looked tall and beautiful, and even Jiang Xianyu, who was always proud of her beauty, was eclipsed at this time. Are you determined to give the aerospace building project to Zhang Fuxing's studio? Jiang Xianyu stepped forward and looked into Fu Liuyi's eyes. Because Fu Liuyin was wearing leather boots and was taller than Jiang Xianyu, she had the advantage of looking down on Jiang Xianyu. Fu Liuyin looked at me and said to Jiang Xianyu apologetically, I'm sorry, just now, I decided to give the project to my ex-boyfriend. This is a new decision. I'm very sorry that Miss Jiang has run for nothing. So, all the expenses of you and this sick gentleman at the racecourse today will be paid by me, okay? Chapter 19 Who was more poisonous? I laughed secretly in my heart. Fu Liuyin said that I was poisonous, but in fact she was more poisonous than me. She was the kind of poisonous tongue that remained calm. She deliberately emphasized the word sick, and everyone who heard it understood that she was mocking Tang Chi for being mentally ill, not physically ill. I hope you will think about it again. Jiang Xianyu threatened, if you insist on giving the project to Zhang Fuxing, your company will face unprecedented pressure. It's not worth it to ignore business interests for your ex, right, Mr. Fu? Fu Liuyin pondered her words and flicked the whip nonchalantly. Are you threatening me? I have something to tell Miss Jiang. In terms of strength, Jiang's is not qualified to put pressure on Fu's. Although we haven't been together as long as you and him, I know my ex-boyfriend much better than you do. He is a very capable person, especially in management. I believe his studio has a bright future. In a few years, his achievements will be far greater than Jiang's. So, there is no problem for me to hand over the project to him. My ears were burning and I felt ashamed. I naively thought that Fu Liuyin gave me the project purely out of emotional factors. In fact, Fu Liuyin had deeper and more far-reaching considerations. I underestimated her. Jiang Xianyu was also ashamed. Fu Liuyin was right. In terms of strength, Jiang's was indeed far inferior to Fu's. Jiang Xianyu sneered in self-mockery, Zhang Fuxing is just a male nanny in my house. What ability can he have? Is President Fu blind? My heart was chilled to the bottom and my fists clenched. I decided to stay at home and work for the family instead of going out to work in order to save her face and not overshadow her. She clearly knew it, but now she says I have no ability. Fortunately, I have good self-control ability, otherwise I would have vomited blood. I really don't know who is blind. I said this with emotion. Fu Liuyin came over happily and hugged my arm, like a little bird. Such a good man, Miss Jiang doesn't want him, but wants a sick man who doesn't know what disease he has. She gave up the beautiful jade and chose the stubborn stone. Who is blind? Tang Chi also went over to hug Jiang Xianyu's arm and supported her. Mr. Fu, don't say that about Xianyu. Xianyu is kind-hearted. She knows that I don't have much time left, so she wants to accompany me to finish the rest of my life. I know that I have dragged Xianyu down, and I really want to bang my head against the wall and die many times." His words were in a crying tone, but apart from being able to move Jiang Xianyu, Fu Luyin and I were not moved at all. "The walls here are quite thick. If you really want to hit them, you will definitely die," I said sarcastically. "Zhang Fuxing, you are too much." Jiang Xianyu had no other choice but to scold me like this. She grabbed Tang Qi's hand. "Let's go." Her eyes quickly swept across the entangled hands of Fu Luyin and me, and left angrily. "Thank you for returning my ex-boyfriend to me," Fu Luyin said. The sound of Jiang Xianyu's footsteps came from the corridor, as if she had a grudge against the floor and wanted to crush it. After a while, the sound disappeared. I untied Fu Luyin's hands. "Do you think I can make the studio bigger and stronger? How can my vision be wrong?" Fu Luyin laughed conceitedly. "Is it because Jiang Xianyu picked up a treasure and didn't know how to cherish it? Are you doing this because I am your ex, or because of my ability? You gave me my project." I stared at her deep eyes with sharp eyes. I really want to know her exact thoughts. However, like a good diplomat, she would not give me the answer I wanted. She winked playfully. "Guess." Chapter 20. Promise yourself. Fu Luyin in front of me is so beautiful and lovely that I was in a trance for a moment. "Let's go, why are you standing there?" Fu Luyin used her whip to gently whip my butt. I was angry. "You can't whip a man's butt casually, the consequences will be very serious." "How serious?" Fu Luyin asked. "Promise yourself." I regretted it as soon as I said this. Sure enough, Fu Luyin's black and white eyes showed tenderness, and she raised the whip. "Then it seems that I have to whip you again." I was worried that she would get entangled in this matter, so I hurriedly changed the subject. "Let's go riding." Before I finished speaking, I strode away. I guess in Fu Luyin's eyes, I looked a little embarrassed. Fu Luyin chose a brown horse, and I planned to choose a black horse, but she took the reins from my hand, which made me confused and unhappy. "Why?" I asked her. "You have to teach me how to ride a horse, otherwise how can I hand over the project to you?" she said confidently. I didn't understand what she meant. "I'll ride a black horse to teach you, you watch how I ride, and you learn how to ride." "That won't work," Fu Luyin said dissatisfiedly. "We have to ride the same horse, you have to teach me step by step on the horse." I finally understood her intention. "You want to take advantage of me, don't you?" Fu Luyin laughed like a silver bell, bent her waist, and was graceful. "I sit in the front and you sit in the back. If you want to talk about taking advantage, you should take advantage of me." I hesitated. On the one hand, there were so many people in the horse farm, and they would definitely talk about it. On the other hand, my relationship with Fu Luyin suddenly became so close. If the paparazzi took pictures and sent them to Mr. Jiang, wouldn't he be very sad? Jiang Xianyu and Jiang's mother were not good to me, but Mr. Jiang treated me like his own son, and I didn't want to disappoint him. I think our relationship should be moderate. Being too close is not good for you or me. I haven't officially divorced Jiang Xianyu yet, but I'm already hooking up with the president of Fu's. You can imagine what people outside will think of me. Jiang Xianyu can let me down, but I can't be without principles. And Fu Luyin will also be branded as seducing a married man. But what surprised me was that Fu Luyin didn't care about it at all. She curled her lips and said in a threatening tone, "Either you ride on the same horse and teach me, or I'll give the project to Jiang Xianyu. You decide." I was very upset. I don't like others threatening me. I don't like others perfunctory either. Fu Luyin and I were tit for tat. It only took me 10 seconds to decide to ride on the same horse with her, because this project is too important to me. If Mr. Jiang really wants to be disappointed, then I can't do anything about it. As I expected, after seeing me and Fu Luyin riding on the same horse, people who saw it cast contemptuous eyes on us. In their eyes, Fu Luyin and I are just a couple. However, since I have decided to ride on the same horse with her, I will no longer care about their gossip. Even if the photo of Fu Luyin and I riding on the same horse is published on the front page tomorrow, I don't care. An hour later, I got off the horse first and reached out to help Fu Luyin down. She suddenly threw herself into my arms. I was not prepared at all and fell to the ground. Her soft body and the enchanting perfume pressed against me, and I was immediately choked. "I didn't expect you to be so weak," Fu Luyin said coquettishly. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. For a few seconds, I didn't know how to respond to her almost rogue words.
Since you know I'm weak, why don't you get up quickly? Fu Liuyin enjoyed putting her face against my chest, and her hands wandered around the sensitive parts outside. I just like being in your arms like this. Chapter 21 Celebrating with Skewers. Fu Liuyin's voice was so gentle that my heart softened and I couldn't bear to push her away. Stop it, there are a lot of people watching here. You mean when no one is watching, I'll be sorry to lie in your arms? Fu Liuyin's eyes were filled with eagerness. Nerve. I found that someone had pointed his hand at us, so I immediately picked up Fu Liuyin and pressed her to the ground like planting a tree. That's it for today. I quickly left the horse farm, returned to the VIP room, changed my clothes, and went to the car to wait for her. She sent me back and agreed with me to go to their horse farm once every Wednesday. When she learned to ride a horse, the project would be officially given to me. Is it going well? As soon as I entered the door, Tian grabbed my hand and asked. He was so excited and eager that he was beyond his interest in the project. I fell on the sofa and answered, Fu Liuyin has already given me the project in front of Jiang Xianyu, on the condition that I teach her how to ride a horse. Tian pondered my words for a while. There is a lot of information. Jiang Xianyu was also at the horse farm. She knew you met with Fu Liuyin, so she went to their horse farm to take you back. My pupils shrank. You are crazy. She kicked me out with her own hands, and she wants to take me back. All she has in her eyes now is that sick man. That's not necessarily true. Tian put on the attitude of an experienced person. Women are like this, they only know how to cherish after losing. That day in the hotel, when Jiang Xianyu saw you and Fu Liuyin together, her eyes almost fell out. In my opinion, the reason why Jiang Xianyu behaved like that was entirely because of the possessive psychology of the eldest lady. Don't think about these gossips, think about what we should do next. Fu Liuyin handed the aerospace building project to me. This is our chance to become famous. As long as this one is a success, then orders and projects will continue to come to us in the future. When I make the studio stronger and bigger, I won't care about Jiang's or Fu's. Don't worry, just leave the technical work to me. When you become Mr. Zhang, I will be Vice President Tai. Tian suddenly patted me, his eyes shining. The project is considered to be won. Don't we go out for a drink to celebrate? I haven't thanked Tian for taking me in. It's a happy thing to win the project, and I should have a drink to celebrate. I sat up and patted Tian's thigh. You pay for the skewers at the night snack street. It's a happy decision. I'm going to rest for a while, call me at the time. I didn't give him a chance to refute, and I slid into the room and closed the door. I only heard Tian say loudly in anger, how did I make such a stingy friend like you? At 9 o'clock in the evening, Tian and I came to the nearby late night snack street and chose a famous barbecue stall to sit down. The barbecue here is relatively affordable, cheap and good quality, and is deeply loved by the middle and lower classes. It can be said that there are huge crowds of people. Boss, for beers, 2 hands of fat beef, 2 hands of fat sheep, 1 hand of pig whip, 2 chicken wings, a plate of cold dishes, and a plate of peanuts. Okay. Bring it up to you right away. The boss lady wiped the table and placed the order with a smile on her face. Tian's eyes were bigger than cow eyes, and he must have felt very disappointed. Brother, you really want to hurt me. You ordered so much, can the 2 of us finish it? At this time, the beer came up, and I opened 2 bottles, without pouring the cup, and blew directly into the bottle. You should still be extravagant when you need to be extravagant. Don't feel bad. I won the aerospace building project. If it is done, our studio will have millions of income. The money from the barbecue is nothing. Tian then relaxed his eyebrows and smiled. Yes, yes, yes. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have won the project. It's my turn to treat you. I grabbed the bottle and clinked it with Tian. I took a sip of cold beer and felt very comfortable. At this time, the guests who were eating barbecue looked at the road, as if something had happened. Out of curiosity, I also turned my head to look over. A luxury car drove into the late night snack street and slowly moved along the curb. My heart suddenly jumped, and my relaxed eyebrows twisted. How did she find this place? Chapter 22 Let's talk about it. The people eating barbecue also talked a lot. A luxury car like this probably costs tens of millions, right? I can't make that much money in my lifetime. Don't even mention the car, the license plate alone is enough to keep us working hard for decades. Comparing yourself to others makes you angry. I wonder which rich man is coming to this street to spend money. Tian kicked me, and I said unhappily, "Why? Your wife is here." Tian whispered, "She's not coming to take you back, is she?" I glared at her sternly, "She and I are nothing now, don't talk nonsense." I was in a good mood, and Jiang Xianyu showed up. It was so fucking depressing. I drank the rest of the beer in one gulp, and then opened another bottle. The luxury car stopped on the side of the road, the door opened, and Jiang Xianyu got out of the back seat wearing high heels, sunglasses, and a black mask. She was tall, and when she put on high heels, she looked graceful and eye-catching. The diners at the scene immediately exclaimed, "Beauty." Perhaps I was the only one in the whole food street who looked blank and didn't take her seriously. How could they know that under Jiang Xianyu's bright and beautiful appearance was an ugly and mercenary heart? I frowned, blowing the bottle while thinking, how did Jiang Xianyu know I was here? "Let's talk." Jiang Xianyu stood in front of me with a Chanel sachet in her hand, and her voice was much gentler than earlier. I was stunned for a moment and looked up at her. "Who are you talking to?" A trace of displeasure flashed across Jiang Xianyu's delicate face. "Can you stop pretending? Who else can I talk to except you?" I pressed the bottle hard on the table, making a snap, and raised my eyes. "You don't even have a title, how do I know you're talking to me?" "Maybe, you're talking to a random person." In the past few years in the Jiang family, Jiang Xianyu has been talking to me in this tone of ordering a maid. Now I've had enough and don't want her to talk to me in this tone anymore. It can be seen that she is adjusting her mood and trying to show her gentle side. "Zhang Fuxing, let me talk to you first, come to my car, okay?" I took a mouthful of skewers and said while eating, "What to talk about? It seems that there is nothing to talk about between you and me. Emotions? She and I will officially divorce in a month. Talk about projects? I can't give her the project." Jiang Xianyu's face flushed. "Don't talk to me in that tone." "Then what tone should I use?" I taunted, "Just tell you to get out and stop disturbing me while I'm drinking and eating meat." "You're going too far." Jiang Xianyu's voice suddenly rose, but she found that people around her were looking at her, so she could only swallow her anger. "I'll give you 1 million, and you give me the project." I couldn't help laughing. Is she sending away beggars? Do you know how much profit this project can bring me? Jiang Xianyu thought for a while. "How about I give you 3 million? I smiled and shook my head. She didn't know what this project meant to me. Economic benefits are only one, opening up the situation is the second, and winning back self-esteem is the third. Even if you give me 100 million, I won't give you the project." Jiang Xianyu actually scolded me. "Are you still a man? Stingy. Don't you just want to use the project to retaliate against me? But have you ever thought that a project as big as the aerospace building can only be done by the two of you? It's better to give the project to our Jiangs. 3 million is enough for the two of you to start a bigger company." I stared at her eyes seriously. "The project that I, Zhang Fuxing, can't do, Jiangs can't do even more." Jiang Xianyu bit a mark on her blood-red lips. "Let me ask you again, what conditions do you want to give me the project?" So I told her directly, "I'll tell you again, no matter what the conditions are, I will not give you the project." Chapter 23 How can we be like boyfriend and girlfriend? She was about to leave, but after standing there for a while, she turned around and approached me. The strong smell of perfume was nauseating. She picked up a napkin, wiped a stool, and then sat down. Tian stood up quickly and tactfully. "I'm going to the bathroom, you guys chat." After he left, Jiang Xianyu suddenly grabbed my arm. After 3 years of marriage, it was only then that I felt her little hand was so soft and smooth. However, it was cold and lacked warmth. "I admit that Tang Chi's return has hurt you, but he doesn't have much time left. I have him in my heart, and he has me in his heart. I can't let him leave alone. So, please forgive me, okay? I also made it clear to you that day. I can give you any compensation you want, cars, houses, stocks, funds, whatever." I was surprised that Jiang Xianyu actually admitted that she was wrong. But such a flawless way of admitting her mistakes, why did I feel so ridiculous that I laughed like a neurotic? "Compared to the car and the house, I hope to never see you two again." My eyes fell on her hands. "Take your hands away, otherwise the sick man will see them and mistakenly think that the old love has rekindled, and he will die in excitement, which will be bad. I don't allow you to curse Tang Chi." Jiang Xianyu clenched her fists, her eyes were dyed red. I took a sip of beer and burped, and she hurriedly covered her mouth and nose. I didn't respond to her again, because she couldn't stop talking about Tang Chi, which really made me sick. At this time, the boss lady came over and said with a smile, "Brother, your girlfriend. She's so beautiful." I hurriedly made a gesture to beg for mercy. Boss lady misunderstood. "No matter how you look at it, she and I don't look like girlfriends." The lady boss was stunned for a moment, her expression was a little embarrassed. My words hurt Jiang Xianyu's self-esteem. She snatched my bottle of wine in a rage and poured out all the wine in it. "Who is his girlfriend? My boyfriend will never come to such a shabby place to eat." The lady boss was unhappy, and immediately pulled down a shoehorn face. Her voice was rough and hoarse. "What are you talking about? Our shabby place? Isn't it just a couple of shabby money? Who do you look down on? She looks decent, but I didn't expect her temper and taste to be so bad. Brother, it's the right choice not to find her as a girlfriend. The farther you stay away from such a woman, the better." I secretly cheered in my heart and gave the lady boss a thumbs up. A bunch of random things were thrown at Jiang Xianyu. How could she be a match for the lady boss in terms of scolding? She was so angry that she returned to the car and left. The lady boss patted my shoulder. "Brother, she doesn't deserve you at all. I'll give you 2 more beers to cool you down. I know the boss lady is very happy. If you don't accept her kindness, she will be angry with you." So I clasped my hands and said, "Then I won't be polite. Thank you, boss lady." After a while, Tian came back and looked around. "Where are the people?" "Gone." My eyes narrowed, and my eyes pierced Tian like a sword, making you uncomfortable. "Why are you looking at me like that? Did you tell her that we are eating here?" I asked sternly. Tian no longer concealed it. "I don't know how she got my mobile phone number. I guess she copied it from the website of our studio. She called me and told me that you have blocked all her contact information and can't contact you. She has something to talk to you." I sent her the location of our meal with the mentality of tearing down 10 temples but not destroying a marriage. I knew Tian had good intentions, so I didn't get angry at him. "You know why I left the Jiang family? A good horse never turns back. Even if she kneels in front of me now, I won't go back. Not to mention, she only has that sick husband in her heart now." Tian raised the bottle of wine to clink with me apologetically. "Brother, I won't do such stupid things again." Chapter 24. It has nothing to do with you. In the following days, I taught Fu Yuyin to ride a horse while working on the aerospace building project with Tian. Tian has the skills, but such a large project cannot be done by him alone, so I had to recruit a few employees who are capable in design. I am like this. If I don't do it, I will do it the best. And, as I mentioned before, this is the first project I received after leaving the Jiang family. I must do it well. This is related to my self-esteem. As time goes by, Jiang Xianyu and I are about to divorce officially. Although I try my best to avoid being photographed by paparazzi and posted online, Fu and I, the photo of Liu Yin riding together at the horse farm still appeared on the front page of the business news website. For such a result, I would avoid it if I could, but it didn't matter if I couldn't. Anyway, Jiang Xianyu could hold Tang Qi's hand in public, so why couldn't I ride the same horse with Fu Liuyin? What annoyed me was that when I was checking the information related to the aerospace building project on the internet that night, a phone call came in. It was Jiang's mother. At first I thought she was reminding me that there were still things that had not been moved out of the Jiang family, because I knew Jiang's mother. Since she kicked me out, she would sweep it out thoroughly, even if she had to throw away the paper towels I bought. "Hello." I responded coldly. What I didn't expect was that a basin of dirty water was poured on the other end of the phone. I said, "Zhang Fuxing, you have been in the Jiang family for a few years. Our Jiang family has treated you well, and Xianyu has let you stay at home and enjoy yourself." At this point, I couldn't help but sneer. "I really thank you, mother and daughter, for your preference and exception for me in the past 3 years. What? You've become bad and irritable after just a few days away." Jiang's mother clearly felt the sarcasm in my words, and she was furious. "I tell you, you have to have a conscience, you can't bully Xianyu like this." I have to say that Jiang's mother makes me sick and angry, but I won't argue on the phone like a shrew. Besides, Jiang's father is good to me, and I don't care about the monk's face. "Aunt Jiang, if you don't have anything else to say, I'll hang up." "Don't hang up." She is like this, always habitually talking to me in an imperative tone, and she occasionally has the same character as Jiang Xianyu. "What's going on between you and Fu Liuyin?" I thought she was talking about me bullying Jiang Xianyu about the aerospace building project, but it turned out to be about Fu Liuyin. What's wrong with me and Fu Yuyin? I asked absent-mindedly. You're still fooling me. Jiang's mother was furious. What's the matter with you riding horses together? Aren't you doing this on purpose to disgust Xianyu? You are shameless, but our Jiang family still has some shame. I really admire her. She is the best at putting the blame on others. Jiang Xianyu and Tang Qi are always together, why doesn't she say they are shameless? I couldn't help but curl my lips in disdain. If riding with Fu Yuyin is shameless, then there are people in your family who are more shameless than me. Mother Jiang certainly knew what I meant. Jiang Xianyu hadn't divorced me yet, but she went to Tang Qi's bed, calling it hospice care. Who is shameless? You dare to say Xianyu is shameless? Fortunately, you are not in front of me, otherwise I would have to slap you. 3 years of free food and drink, it's better to have a dog. I finally understood that for 3 years, Jiang's mother had always treated me like a dog. I couldn't stand it anymore, and I scolded coldly, Aunt Jiang, now you are like a dog. Mother Jiang exploded instantly. What did you say? You ungrateful bastard. Bastard. I warn you, before the official divorce, I forbid you to have any contact with Fu Yuyin. Do you hear me? I said to her, I have left the Jiang family now, and I have the final say on who I associate with. No one has the right to say anything or point fingers in front of me. What does my riding with Fu Yuyin have to do with you? At this time, I heard the voice of Father Jiang. Who is it that makes you so angry? So I hung up the phone, not giving Jiang's mother a chance to refute. On the other hand, I didn't want to quarrel with Jiang's mother in front of Jiang's father. After that, Jiang's mother called me twice more, but I didn't answer. I put her on the blacklist, and it was much quieter. Chapter 25. Are you jealous? I think Jiang's mother will definitely say bad things about me in front of Jiang's father and blame me. But I can't care so much, let the Jiang family think whatever they want. Now I just want to use my mind on the studio. However, Jiang's father still found me. I came out of the horse farm and was about to get in Fu Yuyin's car when I suddenly heard a horn. I turned my head and saw Jiang's father sitting in the back seat, showing a loving smile and waving at me. Jiang Xianyu's father. Fu Yuyin put on sunglasses and said in a weird tone, I guess he can't bear to part with you. He wants you to continue to be the son-in-law of the Jiang family and wants to help you and Jiang Xianyu ease the conflict. I immediately glared at her. Your joke is not funny at all. She pulled the corner of her mouth slightly. Go over quickly, don't let your father-in-law wait for too long. I really wanted to bite her and deprive her of the right to speak, so that she wouldn't say something that would make me unhappy. Uncle Jiang, is there anything? I came to the window of Jiang's father's car, not planning to sit in. Hearing my unfamiliar address, he looked a little sad, and forced a smile on his face. Come in the car, I want to talk to you. Jiang's father patted the seat next to him. I didn't want to have any contact with the Jiang family anymore, but thinking that Jiang's father was good to me, I had to bite the bullet and sit in it. Miss Fu is more beautiful than the photo, no wonder your relationship with her developed so quickly. Jiang's father said, looking at Fu Yuyin opposite. I thought he was mocking me, and I felt very unhappy. No matter how fast Fu Yuyin and I develop, it's not as fast as the other two people's relationship. Father Jiang didn't expect me to be so harsh on him, and a trace of embarrassment flashed across his face. Then, he sighed, with a trace of shame in his eyes. Xinyu was the one who let you down first, I know that. I didn't mean to mock you when I said that just now, I hope you don't misunderstand. I came to see you today, nothing else, I just wanted to call you to apologize for Xianyu's mother. I was stunned for a moment, regretting what I said just now. Seeing that I didn't say anything, he continued. I know that you have been wronged in the Jiang family in the past few years. You are a good husband and a talent, but it's a pity that Xianyu doesn't cherish you. I also want to say that I want you to be the vice president of Jiang's and help Xianyu manage the company's business. Out of self-esteem, I interrupted him before he finished speaking. I can also start my own company without being the vice president of Jiang's. Father Jiang's face was embarrassed again, and then he smiled and said, I believe you have the ability. You have a bright future. In fact, Jiang's was on the verge of bankruptcy. If it weren't for you, it would have ceased to exist long ago. I never doubted your ability. The aerospace building project is a good proof. I hope that one day, Xianyu will wake up. If it is true that Tang Qi has advanced lung cancer, then he will definitely die one day. As Jiang Xianyu's father, how can Jiang's father bear to watch his daughter die alone? He was asking me in a tactful way not to completely and safely cut off the relationship between Jiang Xianyu and me. I didn't say anything, but just smiled coldly. Jiang's father suddenly asked again, "How did you know Fu Liuyin?" I answered truthfully, "She is my ex-girlfriend." R. Jiang's father was at a loss, paused, and said incoherently, "Okay. Okay. Okay. You can get off the car and go accompany Miss Fu. Goodbye." I got out of the car and returned to Fu Liuyin's car. Fu Liuyin didn't say anything and drove directly. "Don't you want to know what Jiang's father wants to talk to me about?" I asked curiously. Fu Liuyin's mouth curled up with disdain. "What else can it be? Isn't it just the trivial things between you and Jiang Xianyu? I'm too lazy to listen." I leaned over and was so close to her that I could even hear her pounding heartbeat. "Are you jealous?" Fu Liuyin answered irrelevantly, "I never add vinegar to noodles." Just then, my cell phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. "Hello," I said. "Zhang Fuxing, are you sick? Why did you call and scold my mother? What has my mother done to you in the past 3 years? First it was my mother, then my father, and now it's my daughter. The Jiang family bombarded me in turns, and it never ends." Chapter 26. I have more vicious words. "Even if I have done something wrong to you, you can just come at me. Why are you targeting my mother? Don't you even have the minimum respect for the elderly? You have already taken away the project that originally belonged to me, and it's not enough. You are also chasing my mother and scolding her. I have never seen a disgusting man like you. Zhang Fuxing, you must apologize to my mother. Otherwise, I will never let you go. Do you hear me?" I already know Jiang Xianyu very well, so I am not surprised that she can say such a confusing thing, and I am not even angry at all. Even Fu Liuyin, who was driving, laughed when he heard it. My ears suddenly felt hot. She must be laughing at me. Why did I find such a woman to marry in the first place? Why should I apologize to your mother? You and your mother are both good at putting the blame on others. It was your mother who called me first, okay? If you don't believe me, you can check her call records." Jiang Xianyu was speechless. My mother said that you called her and scolded her. Whether it was you who called or my mother called you, it was wrong for you to scold my mother, and you must apologize to her. It was simply specious. Have you asked your mother who barked like a mad dog when the phone was connected? It's wrong for me to scold her, but it's right for her to scold me, right? What did you say? Jiang Xianyu was very shocked. You actually scolded my mother with such vicious words. Zhang Fuxing, you are bastard. I hate quarreling on the phone, just like a shrew. So I said to Jiang Xianyu, I have more unpleasant and vicious words, do you want to hear them? She was speechless again. At this time, Fu Liuyin chuckled, as sweet as a silver bell. Who's next to you? Jiang Xianyu asked hurriedly and alertly, is it Fu Liuyin? You guessed it right. I answered, questioning Fu Liuyin with my eyes why she laughed. Why are you together again? I could tell that Jiang Xianyu was ashamed and angry on the other end of the phone. I could finally tell Jiang Xianyu what I couldn't say to Jiang's mother before, who I'm with has nothing to do with you. You bitch. Jiang Xianyu hung up the phone immediately after she said that. Since I met her, she has never said a bad word. This is the first time. It is enough to show that she is furious at this time. It's not very polite for you to laugh next to someone who calls you. I said to Fu Liuyin dissatisfiedly. I really can't hold it back any longer. Fu Liuyin laughed. I'm curious, what more ugly and vicious words do you want to say to Jiang's mother? Tell me, let me laugh again. I imitated her previous tone, guess. Fu Liuyin immediately frowned, serious like a queen. It's boring to parrot. I smiled, closed my eyes, and put the Jiang family's affairs behind me. Are you busy tonight? Let's have dinner together. After a while, Fu Liuyin said. I hesitated. Before officially divorcing Jiang Xianyu, I wanted to avoid going to public places with her as much as possible. As I said before, this is good for me and Fu Liuyin, otherwise she will be accused of seducing a married man. Not expressing your opinion means you agree. Fu Liuyin didn't give me any chance to refuse. If I'm not happy, I can take the project back at any time. For the project, I had to go to a high-end restaurant with her for dinner. Red wine, truffles, caviar, barbecue, candles, violin, full of Western romance.
She deliberately recalled the past with me to create an ambiguous atmosphere, but I deliberately pulled back to reality and talked to her about my future plans. After the aerospace building project is completed, my studio will definitely shine. I will strive to win over connections, attract shareholders to invest, set up a company, take over domestic business, make the company bigger and stronger, and then go public. Fu Liuyan looked disappointed, thinking that I would recall the past with her, but she still smiled and said, "If I invest in you, do you agree?" Her investment was more or less human, but I didn't want to owe her too much, and was about to refuse, when a figure came into my sight. Tang Chi. Chapter 27. I am a very kind person. He was in a semi-open box, whispering with a man, looking very mysterious. Tang Chi didn't look as weak as I had seen before. At this moment, an idea jumped into my mind. Could it be that Tang Chi pretended to be in the late stage of cancer to arouse Jiang Xianyu's sympathy? Whether he was really in the late stage or not, it didn't mean much to me. In a way, I still have to thank Tang Chi. If he hadn't suddenly appeared, I wouldn't know what kind of woman Jiang Xianyu was. At this time, I was still stupidly serving Jiang Xianyu and her mother as a male servant for free in the Jiang family. I secretly thought it was bad luck and was about to look away and pretend that I didn't see him, but he just happened to notice me at this time. His expression was awkward at first, and then he squeezed out an ugly smile. I had no expression on my face and pretended that he didn't exist, but he actually walked over shamelessly. "Mr. Jiang, Mr. Fu, it's an honor to meet you here. Nice to meet you." He looked at me first, then reached out to shake Fu Liuyan's hand. Fu Liuyan nervously put her hand under the table and said embarrassedly, You are not in the advanced stage of lung cancer and will not live long." Her words meant very clearly that if someone is dying, don't shake hands to avoid nightmares. I was very amused because 90% of Fu Liuyan's actions were acting, and her acting was exaggerated. Tang Chi's hand froze in the air, and his face darkened instantly. I said to myself, it is not a lucky thing for me to meet a terminally ill patient. Then I pretended to care about Tang Chi and looked at him. "Didn't I tell you that you are already terminally ill, so don't run around? Isn't it good to lie down at home and recall the good old days? You have to be annoying." I thought he would be ashamed and want to find a crack in the ground to crawl into, but I underestimated his shamelessness. It's true. When Jiang's company was on the verge of bankruptcy, he left Jiang Xianyu and ran abroad. Now that Jiang's company is doing well, he ran back to be with Jiang Xianyu. This is enough to prove that he is thick-skinned. He continued my words with a righteous look. "I know it's annoying, but even so, I have to say a few words to Mr. Jiang." I sneered, "Are you sure it's 2 sentences? If it's 3, I won't listen." Fu Liuyan smiled sweetly. Tang Chi's face was as dark as the bottom of the pot, but even so, he still said, "I don't have much time left, and I don't have many days left with Xianyu. I was sorry for her before. In the last days of my life, I want to make it up to her, make her happy and make her laugh. So, during this time, I hope that no one else will disturb us." He was worried that I had a low IQ and couldn't understand what he said, and he deliberately glanced at me. I sneered, "Don't keep saying that you don't have much time left. It sounds like a spell to me. If you say it too many times, you will be resurrected." Tang Chi said awkwardly, "I'm sorry for annoying you. Didn't he just want me to cut off contact with Jiang Xianyu? God knows, but they have been contacting me and running into me all the time. I even blocked all the contact information of Jiang Xianyu. You should say these words to Jiang Xianyu, not to me." Tang Chi said, "I believe that Mr. Jiang is a kind person at heart, full of compassion, and understands my difficulties as a dying person." What he meant was that if I contacted Jiang Xianyu again and saw Jiang Xianyu again, I would be evil and I would have no compassion. Tang Chi's words were really needles hidden in cotton. I smiled, "You are right, I am a very kind person. When you leave, I will go to your grave to burn incense to show our acquaintance." To be honest, this is a bit vicious, but he kept saying that he didn't have much time left, which shows that he has become indifferent to life and death, and he would not care if I said so. However, I found a trace of scarlet in his eyes. Chapter 28. Formal Divorce. I don't believe that Tang Chi can eat me. Remember to call me when you go to burn incense. After all, I have met Mr. Tang once, so I should go to burn incense. Fu Liuyan said beside him. I glared at her. She really didn't mind making a big deal. She pretended not to see it and took a sip of red wine. Tang Chi didn't get angry in the end and smiled politely. "You continue to eat, I won't disturb you too."
I said with a sullen face. No, take care. Fu Liuyin said in a strange tone, goodbye. This was like sending Tang Chi off to his death. When Tang Chi left the restaurant, I finally couldn't help laughing. You are so vicious, cursing people to die early. Fu Liuyin combed the hair beside her ears elegantly with her hands and stuck out her tongue playfully. He cursed himself to die early. Otherwise, why would he always say that he didn't have much time left? I have seen many people who are indifferent to life and death, but I have never seen him like this. I am thinking. She hesitated to speak. I hate people who speak half a sentence, so I asked her. What are you thinking? No. Nothing. Fu Liuyin forked a piece of barbecue into her mouth so that she didn't have to answer my question. In fact, I had guessed what she meant even if she didn't say it. Tang Chi didn't care about discussing life and death, either he really didn't care about life and death, or his illness was fake. However, as I said just now, whether his illness is real or not has nothing to do with me. Jiang Xianyu is not worth my verification of the truth. Fu Liuyin was very happy tonight and drank a lot of wine. I couldn't persuade her. She and I both drank, so we had to call a designated driver. The car first arrived at my and Tian's community. I got off the car and was about to leave, but I got back into the car immediately. I was worried that Fu Liuyin, who was drunk, would go back alone. She is so beautiful, any man would have thoughts when he sees her. She lives in a high-end villa area. Her villa is very large. It seems empty and wasteful for her to live alone. I put her on the bed, took off her shoes, revealing her sexy 3-inch golden lotus, and my eyes stayed on it for more than 10 seconds. Some men like women's breasts, some like beautiful buttocks, some like waists, and I like women's feet and ankles. Just as I was admiring her sexy feet, she suddenly opened her mouth. Thirst, I want to drink water. I poured a glass of boiled water and handed it to her lips. She took a sip and stopped drinking. Just as I was putting the water cup on the bedside table outside, a pair of soft little hands hooked my waist, and my heart couldn't help but jump. Don't leave tonight, stay here. While speaking, her hand was on my belt. I hurriedly untied her hands and quickly escaped to a safe distance. You are not drunk, and you lied to me again, I said dissatisfiedly. Last time in the hotel, she pretended to be drunk, and I almost couldn't control myself and rolled in the sheets with her. She smiled slightly, and her long eyelashes cast a shadow in her eyes, making her look mysterious and deep. How did I lie to you? Did I say I was drunk? You just sent me back on your own. There won't be a next time. I gritted my teeth and turned away. You have been with Jiang Xianyu for 3 years, and she has never let you touch her. You won't become frigid, right? Fu Liuyin teased, you won't be bad in that aspect, right? I know this is her provocation, and I won't be fooled. You will regret it someday. After saying this, I slammed the door. I stood at the door for a moment, suppressing my lust. If I stayed for another minute, I would not be able to stop. I have to say that Fu Liuyin is becoming more and more feminine, like a ripe strawberry, making people want to take a bite. The time finally came to the day of the official divorce. Jiang Xianyu and I went through the divorce procedures at the Civil Affairs Bureau, and I walked out of the door in front and she walked behind. My relationship with the Jiang family finally came to an end, but I was not very happy. I felt very complicated. I wasted 3 years that should have been glorious. You look very happy. Jiang Xianyu suddenly rushed in front of me and glared at me. Chapter 29 Who has no principles? Jiang Xianyu's questions were redundant. I held up the divorce certificate and sneered. We came to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get this little booklet, isn't it to let each other go? We are all free, we can do whatever we want, why not be happy? You still like Fu Liuyin, right? You can't wait to find her now, right? Jiang Xianyu said. My eyes narrowed, staring at Jiang Xianyu's small face inexplicably. Now that we are officially divorced, it's none of your business which woman I'm with, right? Jiang Xianyu raised her chin proudly. Who cares about you? I'm just telling the truth. You and Fu Liuyin have been in contact for a long time, right? Humph, I thought you were always loyal to me, but in fact you cheated a long time ago. Generally, I disdain this kind of nonsense, but I still can't help but say to her, just because you have no principles doesn't mean others don't. I understand Jiang Xianyu. In fact, she was so angry not because she cared about me, but because she couldn't stand my indifferent look when I received the divorce certificate, which hurt her self-esteem as a young lady.
How can I have no principles? She asked back. I sneered, yes, you are a very principled person. Since the day you married me, you have held onto this principle. I will not let Zhang Fuxing touch me. I will keep my body pure until Tang Qi comes back one day, and then I will offer my body to him. As for keeping my body pure, she actually said with full reason, I won't let you touch me, the problem is entirely with you. For her, I gave up my job in the company for her. I quietly worked as a male servant at home for 3 years, and then Jiang Xianyu actually said that the problem was with me. I was so angry that I suddenly approached her and stared at her angrily. My problem is that I mistook green tea for the Virgin Mary. I am very healthy and have no terminal illness. Green tea. Jiang Xianyu was frightened by me and her face turned pale. Her eyes were timid, and only her raised lips still had a trace of arrogance. Then what are you? At this time, a familiar car shadow entered my vision and slowly stopped in front of me. The car window rolled down, revealing Fu Liuyin's bright eyes, white teeth, and flaming red lips. What a coincidence. Are you driving here? If not, take my car. I just want to talk to you about the design of the aerospace building. Tian had to go out for something and drove away, so I came here by DD. You just happened to pass by the Civil Affairs Bureau. I suspected that Fu Liuyin passed by here intentionally. But she smiled sweetly and replied, isn't this fate? I just happened to pass by the Civil Affairs Bureau and ran into you. It can be seen that Fu Liuyin deliberately ignored Jiang Xianyu. I was right, right? As soon as you get divorced, you can't wait to throw yourself into her arms. Jiang Xianyu's face was full of contempt. I don't want Jiang Xianyu to think that I am that kind of villain who deliberately finds Fu Liuyin to laugh at her. You can say whatever you want, I don't want to quarrel here. The door of the Civil Affairs Bureau faces the street, and people and cars are coming and going. I can't afford to lose that person. So, I walked across the street to call a DD. I saw Jiang Xianyu holding Fu Liuyin. What is your relationship with Zhang Fuxing? Fu Liuyin smiled. I have made it very clear that he is my ex-boyfriend. How many times do I have to say this? What about now? Jiang Xianyu continued to ask. Fu Liuyin looked at me with tenderness in her eyes. Is it not okay for me to pursue him now? Fu Liuyin deliberately flirted and fiddled with her hair by her ears. Is there any law that says I can't pursue a divorced man? We just came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, and you can't wait to pursue Zhang Fuxing. Isn't that shameless? Jiang Xianyu scolded. Fu Liuyin smiled. Miss Jiang is too modest. If we talk about shamelessness, you and Tang Qi are much better than me. You and my ex-boyfriend haven't even registered for divorce yet, but we're still going out together in public. Jiang Xianyu's chest rose and fell violently. That's because Tang Qi has special circumstances. I couldn't help but snort on this side of the road. Can special circumstances be a reason to be shameless? The most ridiculous thing in the world. Fu Liuyin seemed to be my worm, knowing what I was thinking, and said to Jiang Xianyu, can special circumstances make you shameless? You are shameless. Jiang Xianyu really had nothing to say. Apart from other things, she was really no match for Fu Liuyin in bickering. Chapter 30. Don't blame me for the rest of my life. Fu Liuyin ignored Jiang Xianyu and turned the car around to my side. Get in the car. She patted the passenger seat. Damn, I don't know if it's because there are so many people getting divorced today, but Didi hasn't received any orders for so long. Don't bother you, I'll take a Didi back. I looked around, hoping to see a taxi. But strangely, there was no taxi within my sight. Across from me, Jiang Xianyu stood at the door of the Civil Affairs Bureau and stared at me. Why, they kicked you out, and you have to look at Jiang Xianyu's face even when you take a taxi. Are you afraid that she will be jealous? You don't still have her in your heart, do you? If that's the case, I despise you. Fu Liuyin's words were like needles, making me uncomfortable all over. I'm not worried that she will be jealous, I just don't want her to misunderstand. I tried to lower my voice so that Jiang Xianyu across from me wouldn't hear. Misunderstanding. A shadow appeared in Fu Liuyin's eyes. Misunderstanding of the relationship between you and me? I have been thinking about it these days. What is the relationship between you and me? A business partnership or a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship? That's not what I meant. I hurriedly explained. I was worried that Jiang Xianyu would think that I deliberately called you to ridicule her. The shadow in Fu Liuyin's eyes disappeared immediately. Even if she thinks you are a villain, so what? Anyway, you have nothing to do with her and the Jiang family now. Her words reminded me that there is no need to live under the shadow of the Jiang family anymore. Being timid is not my style. So, I opened the passenger seat and sat next to Fu Yuyin. I saw Jiang Xianyu's face flushed and her hands clenched into fists. With her eyes, Fu Yuyin and I drove away from the street quickly. By the way, what about the last time I talked about investing in you? Do you agree or not? Fu Yuyin asked after more than 10 minutes of silence. Are you serious? I thought she was joking before. Fu Yuyin asked back, have you ever seen me not being serious? I thought about it. Tian and I are just a small studio. If you invest in me, you will take a big risk. If I don't believe in your ability, I won't give you the project. Fu Yuyin turned her head and looked at me, her eyes were very sincere. But I still couldn't accept her investment. I am very grateful that you gave me the project for the sake of our past relationship. As for your investment, I won't consider it for the time being. I found that her eyes, staring at the road ahead, flashed with sadness. Can I understand that you still have fantasies about Jiang Xianyu? When Tang Qi dies, you still want to go back to her? No. I answered firmly, you are humiliating me by saying this. I don't accept your investment because I don't want people to think that I rely on gigolos to get to the top. I just took off this stigma and can't put it on again. A small studio got a project that other big companies couldn't get, and got the investment of President Fu's. Coupled with the previous gossip reports, it is easy for people to think that I relied on Fu Yuyin to get to the top. Fu Yuyin thought for a while and understood my difficulties. Okay. Since you don't want me to invest now, I won't force you. When you need it, remember to tell me. Today is the day to teach her horse riding. It was originally scheduled for the morning, but it was delayed because of the divorce with Jiang Xianyu. After I rode with her for a few laps at the horse farm, Fu Yuyin was full of confidence and insisted on riding by herself. She rode very steadily in the first few laps, but then she waved the whip to make their horse run faster. I was about to tell her to slow down when she fell off their horse. What's wrong? My heart jumped, and I took a step forward and helped her sit up. Hiss. Fu Yuyin covered her calf with a painful expression, my leg hurts so much. Tears rolled in her clear eyes, but they didn't fall. You can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. You just learn to walk in small steps, and you want to walk in big steps immediately. How can you not fall? I blamed her with heartache. Fu Yuyin's eyes were filled with resentment. I've fallen so badly, don't blame me. If my leg is broken, you have to support me forever. My heart was broken, and I said, it can't be broken, you want to blame me forever, no way. Fu Yuyin sighed softly, I thought it was a failure in the horse farm, but a success in love. It seems not. Chapter 31 Only drink the soup you make. The horse farm has a special medical staff, who came to give Fu Yuyin a simple treatment, and then called 120 ambulance to take her to the hospital. After taking an X-ray, the attending doctor thought it was a bone dislocation, and after plastering, she could go home after staying in the hospital for about 3 days. Of course, it would take at least a month to walk normally. Give me your mobile phone. After settling her in the VIP ward, I reached out to her. What for? Fu Yuyin asked puzzledly and vigilantly. Although the pain made her pale, she was still beautiful. Especially the corners of her mouth, slightly raised, very sexy. Don't worry, I won't transfer all your assets to my account while you are recovering. I explained, I will call your family and ask them to come and take care of you. No. Before I finished speaking, she rejected my proposal. It seemed that she didn't want to see her family very much. Just take care of me here. You don't need too many people. Me? I was not mentally prepared at all. I still have work to do in the studio. I guess I can't take care of you in the hospital all day. I will compensate you 10 times for the loss of your studio. Fu Yuyin said domineeringly. But, your family. Although her injury was not too serious, she had to notify her family. I will call my assistant later and ask her to ask for a week's leave for me, saying that I am going abroad for inspection. You will stay with me in the hospital this week. After she said these words, she quickly switched from the role of a strong president to the role of a weak woman, looking at me gently. As your ex-girlfriend, can't you even squeeze out 7 days? I am not heartless, so I can only agree to take care of her. Okay. What do you want to eat? I'll go to the hospital cafeteria to buy it. My favorite soup. Fu Liuyan looked at me, trying to see if I remembered it. How could I not remember it? She loved the crucian carp, radish and tofu soup I made the most. Jiang Xianyu also liked this soup, but it was a pity that I made crucian carp soup for Jiang Xianyu for 3 years, but she didn't even say thank you. I'll go to the cafeteria to buy it now. No. Fu Liuyan held my hand. I want to drink what you made. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Auntie, their hospital is half an hour's drive from where I live. Their hospital has it now, I can go downstairs and buy it. Otherwise, I can order takeout. Fu Liuyan said in an irrefutable tone, I only want to drink what you make, I don't drink anything else. You are too difficult for others. To be honest, I was very unhappy. I felt that she was deliberately making things difficult for me. She pouted her little mouth and shook my arm in a coquettish voice. Honey, please do it for me. Please. Oh my God, goosebumps all over the floor. The nurse who was filling out the admission procedures couldn't help laughing and said, How can you be a boyfriend? If he doesn't make crucian carp soup, Miss Fu will divorce him. I didn't want her to disgust me like this again, so I had to agree. Give me the car keys, I'll go back to buy vegetables and make soup. Fu Liuyan giggled happily and gave me the luxury car keys in her bag. Suddenly, she covered her stomach again and frowned. Help me to go to the toilet, I have to pee. I seemed to be struck by lightning and turned to ashes in an instant. The woman smiled and left the ward and closed the door. Do it on the bed, I said. No, it's so dirty to pee on the mattress. Help me to go to the toilet. Fu Liuyan's face showed pain. Hurry up. She treated me like a nurse. I had no choice but to help her into the toilet. She was about to take off her pants when she suddenly glared at me. Turn your face away, don't peek. Who cares? I turned my face away with a feeling of grievance. She took off her pants and sat on the toilet. After we were done, I helped her back to the bed. I drove her car to the supermarket to buy crucian carp, radish, tofu, and various ingredients, and then went home to make soup. Tyan was eating instant noodles, and when he saw me busy in the kitchen, he came in to see me, and his eyebrows were overjoyed. Fish soup. The sun came out from the west today, kid. You are in for a treat. Chapter 32. This is a quiet hospital. Tyan scooped soup with a spoon and drank it. I was shocked when I saw it. How could Fu Liuyan drink another man's saliva? What? This is not for you. I quickly snatched the spoon away. If it's not for me, who should I drink it for? Tyan was confused. He must be thinking that if brothers under the same roof can't drink it, this fish soup must be so precious. Don't worry about it. I felt that the soup was almost done, so I put it in the already washed lunch box. Tyan thought for a long time and smiled. I know. It's for Fu Liuyan. I didn't expect that you and her developed so quickly that you made soup for her in no time. I always thought you were a man who would not bow down to a woman and make soup for her. It seems that I was wrong. Now I deeply understand what that sentence means, what is meant by charming for beauty and neglecting friendship. I look like a very cold person on the surface, but as long as I meet someone I love, I can bow my head, even if I am a househusband. The hateful thing is that Jiang Xianyu let me down. I saw that the lunchbox was full and there was still some fish soup left in the pot, so I said, I'll give you the rest, it should be enough to shut your mouth. I took the lunchbox and drove to their hospital. When I arrived at the floor of the VIP ward, I found that there were many people gathered at the door of the ward. I was surprised and wondered what these people were doing. When I walked to the outside and looked in, it was also crowded with people. Various gift boxes were piled in the corner, and everyone's face was filled with flattering smiles. Mr. Fu, why are you so careless? I know a famous orthopedic doctor. Do you want me to invite him over? As soon as I heard that you were in trouble, I had to put down my business worth hundreds of millions and come to visit Mr. Fu. How about this, I stay and take care of Mr. Fu. I bought some supplements specifically for bones. Drink them and you will get better quickly. You must try it later. It's important for you to recover. Let me handle the company's affairs first. You can rest assured to recover here. It turned out to be Fu Liuyan's partner and company people. How did they know that Fu Liuyan was in trouble? I thought about it and thought that it should be the people in the horse farm who leaked the news. After all, as the president of Fu's, he is a big man after all. If there is any disturbance, it will definitely alarm the entire business community. A man with a big back hair and ruddy skin was holding several gift boxes in his hands and couldn't squeeze in. Seeing me standing behind him, he looked me up and down and was furious. Don't you see that there are people inside? Still want to squeeze in? Get out of here. It's not your turn to go in and show your courtesy. Another man said angrily. Those who can stand by Mr. Fu's bed have assets of tens of billions. Those who are farther away have assets of more than 10 billion. Those who can enter the room basically have assets of hundreds of millions. Mr. Liao, we only have tens of millions of assets, so it's natural that we are squeezed out. Brother, you want to be a warm man in front of Mr. Fu with a lunch box. How much is your net worth? I answered honestly, I only have one studio. Puff. Both men couldn't help laughing. You'd better wait at the elevator entrance. Mr. Xu, people nowadays are so shameless. They want to rush forward with just one studio. This is a hospital. They are making a lot of noise. How can the patients and the injured recuperate? I said to them, their hospital is a quiet place. Please speak softly. Don't you see those two words? I pointed to the two big words written on the wall, quiet. One of the men said angrily, damn it, you are teaching me a lesson. Who gave you the courage? Liao instigated Xu, boss Xu, drag him downstairs. Otherwise people will think we are in the same class as him. I was about to wave my fist to teach these two guys who looked down on others a lesson, when Fu Liuyin's crisp and pleasant voice came from the ward. Zhang Fuxing, come in quickly, I'm starving, I want soup. Chapter 33. My surname is Zhang, not Jiu. The people in the ward followed Fu Liuyin's gaze and looked for the person Fu Liuyin mentioned among the people at the door. They must be wondering, who could get Fu Liuyin's imperial decree to come in? Her best friend? Her family? Is it Mr. Fu and Mrs. Fu who are here? Boss Jiu. Some people were talking quietly. The Xu and Liao looked left and right, looking for the person Fu Liuyin mentioned, so as to make way. Get out of the way. The man surnamed Xu pushed me aside with his hand. Mr. Xu, let him in. Fu Liuyin said coldly to the man surnamed Xu. Him. The man surnamed Xu was stunned, thinking he had seen wrong, and pointed at me with his finger, is it him? Yes, it's him. Fu Liuyin tapped his chin. The man surnamed Xu hurriedly looked me up and down again, and uttered two words, Mr. Jiu. I'm really sorry, there was a misunderstanding just now, please forgive me. He said while tidying up my clothes. The man surnamed Liao also hurriedly made way for me respectfully, bowing his body to make a gesture of invitation. Mr. Jiu and Mr. Fu are a match made in heaven. You cook for Mr. Fu, which is enough to show that you have feelings for Mr. Fu. Although I don't know who Mr. Jiu is, from what they mean, the Mr. Jiu they are talking about should be Jiu Shijie, the son of the business tycoon Jiu family. How is Fu Liuyin related to Jiu Shijie? Such doubts only flashed through my mind. I puffed out my chest and cast contemptuous eyes on Xu and Liao. My last name is Zhang, not Jiu. Please keep an eye on me. If I were Fu Liuyin, I would never cooperate with such a snobbish guy who looked down on others. Come here quickly, I'm starving. Fu Liuyin stretched out her hand to greet him, as if she was really hungry and her stomach was growling. Everyone in the ward watched me come to the bedside. I put the lunchbox on the table, took out a small bowl and a small spoon, and served a bowl of Crucian carp soup. The soup was still hot, emitting heat, and the fragrance immediately filled the ward. It smells so good. Fu Liuyin was beaming with joy, feed me. I frowned and said in a low voice, you are not unable to move your hands. Fu Liuyin started to act like a spoiled child again, I just want. Okay. I didn't want to get goosebumps again, so I quickly grabbed the bowl with one hand and the spoon with the other. But there were so many people in the ward, I was really embarrassed, my ears were burning. Fu Liuyin saw what I was thinking, and said to them in the tone of a CEO, those of you who have nothing to do can go back first, and those who have something to do can wait outside. I'll talk after I finish eating. Then Mr. Fu will eat first, we'll go back. We'll come back in an hour. Mr. Fu, enjoy. Wish Mr. Fu a speedy recovery. Before they left, they lowered their heads and secretly glanced at me, definitely wondering which rich young master I was. Wait. Fu Liuyin suddenly said, Mr. Xu, Mr. Liao, our cooperation with you ends here. I was surprised and warm. In order to save my face, Fu Liuyin actually kicked out his partner. I wanted to say a few words for them, but when I thought of their snobbish faces just now, I felt sick. Mr. Xu and Mr. Liao naturally knew why Fu Liuyin made this decision, and their faces were full of bitterness and grievance. What's the blame? Blame myself for not recognizing a great man. Mr. Fu, why don't you reconsider it? Our company can give Fu's a profit again. Fu Liuyin didn't give them any face. Tomorrow I will ask my assistant to send you the legal documents for terminating the contract. Go ahead and close the door. They were helpless, sighed, glanced at me unwillingly, closed the door and left. I gave Fu Liuyin a thumbs up. You are vigorous and decisive, worthy of being the president. Fu Liuyin said lightly. They can't see such a capable talent like you. If I cooperate with such a partner who has no vision, our Fus will suffer sooner or later. Instead of this, it's better to terminate the contract with them early. That. I had a question in my heart that I wanted to ask her, but after hesitating for a while, I decided to keep it to myself. Fu Liuyin's eyes were full of shrewdness, as if she guessed what I was going to ask, and smiled slightly. Hurry up and feed me soup. Chapter 34 Wishful Thinking. I brought the crucian carp soup to her lips, and she sucked it gently, smacked her lips, and savored it. Why, is it unpalatable? She didn't say anything for a long time, which made me very dissatisfied. She smiled and said, it still tastes the same, delicious. After a few years, your cooking skills are still so good. I have been a househusband for 3 years, how bad can my cooking skills be? After saying that, I sighed. You will cook for me every day in the future. Fu Liuyin said half-jokingly. I snorted, wishful thinking. Since you love to drink my soup so much, you should finish it. Of course. This much is not enough to fill my teeth. Fu Liuyin pointed at her mouth, hurry, drink the soup. I was very happy that someone liked to appreciate my cooking skills, and fed Fu Liuyin all the soup one spoonful at a time. I brought her 2 tissues to wipe her mouth. I'll go wash the lunchbox. Fu Liuyin joked again, the female nurses here are all very pretty, don't flirt with them. No matter how pretty the nurses are, they are not as pretty as you. If I want to flirt with someone, I'll flirt with you first. I was just joking, but I noticed that Fu Liuyin's eyes were not right after hearing what I said, so I hurriedly picked up the lunchbox and left the ward. In theory, I have divorced Jiang Xianyu, so it is not a problem to date Fu Liuyin. But before I officially date Fu Liuyin, I have to clarify 2 things first. Why did Fu Liuyin secretly leave me back then? What is her relationship with the Jiu family? From what those people said just now, Fu Liuyin seems to have an emotional entanglement with the son of the Jiu family. If she and the young master of the Jiu family are already engaged, it would be unkind for me to interfere. The water room is at the end of the corridor, next to the corner of the corridor. I walked into the water room to get some water. There were people talking and laughing at the corner. I listened carefully and found that they were talking about Fu Liuyin. Who is this Jiang? She looks like a human. How can Fu Liuyin be related to her? She is probably a gigolo. She doesn't have much family background. Fu Liuyin is also at the age of being as fierce as a wolf. It's normal for her to like a gigolo. Does Jiu Shijie know that his sweetheart has a gigolo? If he knows, there will be a good show to watch. I didn't expect that Fu Liuyin, who is always cold and serious, is like a little girl in front of that gigolo. Hey! Hey, so disgusting. The gigolo is good. Fu Liuyin is served by him to the point of ecstasy. How can she not like him? If they just talk about me, I can bear it. But if they secretly talk about Fu Liuyin, that's not okay. I threw the lunchbox on the ground, screamed with a bang, and strode to the corner of the stairs. They suddenly saw me and were shocked. If you dare, repeat what you just said. My hands are itching now, and I clench my fists and make a clattering sound. Mr. Xu took a step forward, confident and fearless. Fu Liuyin is a slut, the young master of the Jiu family doesn't want her, but wants you, a jerk. I don't care that he called me a jerk, I have heard even worse words in the Jiang family. What I care about is the words he used to describe Fu Liuyin. The man surnamed Xu thought that he had no contractual relationship with Fu Liuyin, and he was fearless, but I will make him regret it in the next second. Bang! Before he could react, my fist knocked him out. If it weren't for the support of others, the man surnamed Xu would have gone down the stairs. In the 3 years of hibernating in the Jiang family, I didn't go to work. After doing housework, the only pastime was to go to their fighting club to learn fighting techniques and practice super strong arm strength. Don't say Shu, even if all of them came together, I could knock them down one by one. Why are you hitting people? That's so vulgar. Why did Mr. Fu find such a man? Mr. Shu is bleeding. Should we call 120? Damn, this is a hospital, why call 120? Call the police. What's the use? Fu Liuyan is rich and powerful, and he can always make a big deal out of a small deal. Some people still have a cooperative relationship with Fu Liuyan and act as peacemakers in the middle. Mr. Zhang's attack was a bit heavy, but Mr. Shu's words were not nice. Let's just let it go. Yes, yes. Don't look at the monk's face, look at the booters. Because he is Mr. Fu's boyfriend, let's let it go. Chapter 35. I am just an outsider. Under the persuasion of others, the man surnamed Shu did not bother me anymore. After all, Fu Liuyan's company was so large, and although the cooperation this time was terminated, Shu did not want to block the road. Who knows, there may be other opportunities for cooperation in the future. After I warned them, I turned and left. I took the lunchbox back to the ward. You took so long to wash the lunchbox. Fu Liuyan may have noticed that my face was not right, and her eyes kept staring at me. Why are your eyes so red? It is always wrong to hit people, even if it is a beast, it is not a very glorious thing. I forced a smile and signaled her not to ask further. You don't need me to accompany you tonight. Fu Liuyan is a smart person. Seeing that I didn't say anything, she didn't continue to ask. It would be great if you could stay with me, so that I can have someone to talk to. But, it seems that you don't like staying here, so forget it. Isn't this nonsense? Who likes to stay in the hospital? At this moment, a tall young woman in a black uniform knocked on the door. Fu Liuyan motioned for her to come in. The door was half open, and the woman knocked out of politeness. She wore silver-rimmed glasses, had a beautiful face, and her beautiful hips twisted as she walked, very charming. Her shrewd eyes quickly swept across my face. Mr. Fu, this is Mr. Jiang. Fu Liuyan pointed at me and introduced me. Hello, Mr. Jiang. The woman bowed respectfully. I bowed slightly in response. If I guessed correctly, she should be Fu Liuyan's assistant. Her name is Qi Wei, my female assistant. After Fu Liuyan introduced her, he asked, "Is there anything important in the company today?" Qi Wei immediately opened the file name and was about to say something, but suddenly glanced at me meaningfully. I'll go out for a while, you guys chat. I walked out tactfully. Some business secrets cannot be heard by outsiders. You stay here. Fu Liuyan said, Mr. Jiang is one of us, it's okay. One of us. Qi Wei repeated the word, her eyes moving. I guess she was thinking about what the specific meaning of one of us was. I am quite interested in Fu's. Maybe I can get inspiration and experience from Fu's and help my own business. So, I chose to stay. Qi Wei then reported the main things of Fu's that day to Fu Liuyan. Fu Liuyan listened carefully, and it seemed that there was no problem with her legs. An hour ago, Mr. Ren of Deep Blue Real Estate Company called and asked Mr. Fu what he thought about investing in their amusement park project. Qi Wei finished her report and then asked Fu Liuyan for instructions. Xunlan is a big boss in the real estate industry, with business all over the world. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Once the investment is successful, it will help our Fu family to go global. Fu Liuyan's eyes were deep. After thinking for a while, he suddenly looked at me and said to Qi Wei, "Ask Mr. Jiang." R. Qi Wei opened her mouth wide, looking confused. Ask. Ask Mr. Jiang. I was surprised and puzzled. Why did you ask me about Fu's business? This is your company's business. I am an outsider and it is not easy for me to interfere. In my opinion, you are not an outsider. Fu Liuyan's meaning is very clear. I will be her boyfriend in the future, so I am not an outsider. But I am very dissatisfied with her practice of making the relationship between me and her known to the world. I think you should ask other people in the company, such as the deputy general manager. I want to hear your opinion now. Fu Liuyan's tone was domineering and gentle, which made it difficult for me to refuse. I want to see what you are capable of. If you are not capable, I will not trust you with the aerospace building. She clearly knew that the aerospace building project was very important to my studio, so she deliberately used it to force me. I have to say that Fu Liuyin has already touched my weakness. In this case, I can only express my views and opinions. Chapter 36. Ask Mr. Jiang. I have noticed real estate giants like Deep Blue Company for a long time. If we can get its investment, my studio in Taiwan will be even more powerful. But after I collected information, I found that Deep Blue Company has huge hidden dangers. I suggest that Fus don't invest in Deep Blue. Why? Qi Wei's face showed displeasure. Fu Liuyin's deep eyes also revealed doubts. She moved her body, put on a more comfortable posture, and listened carefully. Deep Blue is such a big company. It is our honor to cooperate with it, and it can also drive our company internationalization. Why don't you agree to cooperate with it? My reasons are very sufficient. Deep Blue is huge and has real estate investments almost all over the world, but it actually has many hidden dangers. I looked up some information. In the case of a sluggish real estate market, Deep Blue's building sales volume is pitifully small, and many of them are unfinished projects. To put it bluntly, a collapse is a matter of time. There is a rumor that Deep Blue's CEO Ren secretly sold real estate abroad to cash out, probably tens of billions. In this case, he cashed out on the one hand and expanded on the other, which only shows one problem: Deep Blue's capital chain has been broken. Qi Wei looked at me doubtfully. Your news is? Where do you get the information from? I smiled playfully. I climb over the wall occasionally. Fu Liuyin was surprised and happy. Fortunately I asked you, otherwise I would have thrown the money into the water. But Mr. Fu, Qi Wei questioned, Mr. Zhang's information comes from the internet, is it reliable? It would be a pity to miss the opportunity to cooperate with Shenlan because of some fake news. Fu Liuyin said seriously, I would rather regret it than let Fus fall into crisis. After you return to the company, call Mr. Ren in my name and tell him my decision. Yes. Qi Wei glanced at me with curiosity. I blinked and responded to her sneak glance. She was startled and panicked, and turned her face away quickly, which was very cute. Also, Fu Liuyin added, during the days I'm in the hospital, if there are any major issues in the company, if I'm not in the ward and Mr. Jiang is here, you can ask him. His opinion is my opinion. This. Qi Wei frowned in embarrassment. Don't you ask Vice President Li. No need. If anything goes wrong, I'll take responsibility. Fu Liuyin smiled, and her affectionate eyes seemed to ask me, is she good enough for me? I was flattered by her gift, but to be honest, I was not happy at all. She was so good to me, she couldn't wait to pull me to her side, and she was eager to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau with me to get a marriage certificate tomorrow, and she was eager to let me join Fus as vice president the day after tomorrow. I went back to my residence and searched Guz on the internet. Guz is different from Fus. Fus' main business is retail, and real estate accounts for only a small part. Guz's main business is real estate and upstream and downstream industries, and its total assets are second only to Fus. The current head of Guz's family is Jiu Shijie, the son of the Jiu family. He has taken over the company for more than 3 years. He has a good business sense and has pulled up the Jiu family, which was on the verge of bankruptcy, to achieve today's achievements. It is rumored that Jiu Shijie and Fu Liuyin, the president of Fu's family, are a perfect match and once had an engagement. I was stunned when I saw this. Even if the news on their website is not true, judging from what those people said in the hospital today, Jiu Shijie is very likely pursuing Fu Liuyin. Fu Liuyin doesn't like Jiu Shijie. I said to myself on the mobile phone website, otherwise, why would she try every means to get close to me? Brother. Taiyan's anxious voice brought me back to my senses. What's wrong? Is their house on fire? I was dissatisfied with him interrupting my thoughts. You are so rude. He glared at me and then said, look at this. Although it's not a house on fire, it's almost as serious as a house on fire. He gave me the tablet and I saw the big headline on the website, Jiang Xianyu's ex-husband beat someone in the hospital. Here are some photos of me beating Shu. My angry expression was hideous and weird, while the person being beaten looked pitiful. Chapter 37. I only beat people who deserve to be beaten. I never knew I could be so hideous and ugly. The person taking the photo was in the right position, and the timing of the photo was even more appropriate. Damn it. I threw the tablet on the sofa in a rage. Fuck. Taiyan was heartbroken. This is my tablet, it costs tens of thousands of dollars. I ignored Taiyan, but tried to recall who took these photos and posted them online. It is a fact that I beat people, but the person who wrote the article is talking nonsense. It said that because Jiang Xianyu kicked me, I was in a bad mood, depressed, and was receiving treatment in a hospital, and I beat people at every turn. The article also showed conclusive evidence that I have always had a violent tendency, and Jiang Xianyu has been abused many times in the 3 years since marriage. In order to continue to be the son-in-law of the Jiang family, I can only do housework at home in exchange for the Jiang family's forgiveness. The surname Liao. I suddenly thought of it. The person who took the photo at this position was the surname Liao. He was terminated by Fu Liuyin because of me, and he was resentful, so he posted the photo online. There are more here. Tian swiped the tablet, his eyes widened. Brother, you have become an internet celebrity this time. Show me. I was uneasy, not knowing what kind of rumors would be spread to slander me. Tian held the tablet in his arms. You swear not to drop it. What are you hesitating about? I snatched the tablet away. The president of Fu's is pregnant, and the biological father is actually Jiang Xianyu's ex-husband. Jiang Xianyu's ex-husband cheated on the president of Fu's and beat up the reporter to protect his privacy. Fuck. If the rumor was only directed at me, I could still endure it, but now it has also involved Fu Liuyin. Hey, don't throw their computer. Tian snatched the tablet back from me and protected it like a child. If he hadn't taken it back in time, I would have fallen to the floor. Next time I meet that Liao guy, I will knock all his teeth out. Just when I was furious, my cell phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Hello. I answered the call and there was a barrage of abuse from the other end. Scumbag. Violent maniac. Two-timing. Playboy. Doomed to die. All kinds of ugly names were thrown at me. Someone even wanted to challenge me to a fight and vowed to beat me to a pulp. Seeing that my cell phone was about to explode, I simply turned it off. But I underestimated the ability of those busybodies. Somehow, they found my QQ and WeChat and abused me in all kinds of ways. What are you going to do now? Tian asked with concern. Do you have cigarettes? I held out 2 fingers to Tian. Yes. Tian always smokes, and he knows that I really need cigarettes at this time. I took a puff of the cigarette and calmed down a lot. We are currently only cooperating with Fu's company, and today's rumors will not do much harm to our studio. But it's different for Fu Liuyin. I put out the cigarette that I had only taken 2 puffs of, picked up Tian's car keys and ran out. Where are we going? Tian asked. Hospital. The neon lights are bright and the night market is tempting, but I am not in the mood to appreciate the beautiful scenery in front of me. I just came to the downstairs of the surgical inpatient building and was shocked by the scene in front of me. Dozens of reporters squatted at the gate of the inpatient building, and the security guards pulled up a cordon to prevent reporters from entering. They must be here for today's rumors. These reporters are like flies seeing blood. My heart can't help but feel uneasy. At this time, someone suddenly patted my back, and I turned my head hurriedly, only to see a woman wearing a medical mask standing in front of me, and stuffed another mask into my hand. Put it on, I'll take you upstairs. I only knew from the voice that the woman in front of me was Fu Liuyin's assistant Qi Wei. She took me around to the corridor for medical staff and took the elevator to the VIP ward floor. In the elevator, I asked her, do you all know what happened? Qi Wei took off her mask, revealing a charming face, and complained, why do you hit people casually? You don't know that Mr. Fu is in trouble now. I know Fu Liuyin's current situation without her describing it in detail. But I don't regret beating up that Shu guy. I don't hit people casually, I only hit those who deserve to be beaten. Qi Wei looked at me dissatisfied for a while, but smiled behind me. You have personality, no wonder Mr. Fu likes you. Chapter 38. Let the bullets fly for a while. If Qi Wei insists on treating my rationality as personality, I have nothing to say. If I don't beat up that Shu guy, I don't know how many malicious slanders he will spread against Fu Liuyin. However, the facts prove that beating him has no effect at all. I can only blame myself for being too angry at the time and not noticing that there was a sinister villain next to me. If I saw Liao taking pictures at the time, I would definitely snatch the phone and throw it on the ground. I walked into the ward with shame, thinking that Fu Liuyin would scold me for being impulsive, but the fact was not like that. She was lying on the bed, with a leisurely expression, browsing her phone. Could it be that she didn't know that there were so many reporters squatting downstairs? Didn't she know about the rumors flying all over the sky? I cast a puzzled look at Qi Wei, and Qi Wei's eyebrows were twisted up, almost like a rope.
Mr. Fu, don't you know about Mr. Zhang's beating? Hearing Qi Wei's voice, it felt like her heart was about to jump out. This is what I want to ask. I know, it's all written on the internet. Fu Liuyan said so lightly that I was completely confused. I have to say, these people who engage in self-media are really imaginative. Look here, it says that you punched and kicked reporters to protect me and my baby in my belly. She waved to me and asked me to go over and read that article. She actually treated these slanderous and insulting articles as jokes. She has a big heart. I have read these articles, I said, except for the fact that you beat people, the rest is nonsense. Fu Liuyan asked curiously, why did you beat Lao Shu? I confessed honestly, he said bad things about you in the corridor. Just because he said a few bad things about me, you beat him. Fu Liuyan was very surprised. I narrowed my eyes and stared at her. What does she mean? Is she blaming me for being impulsive? Or is she just trying to express her surprise? What else? I hit her because she flirted with you in front of me. Fu Liuyan actually smiled, her eyes full of tenderness. I was flustered by her look. I'm glad you're protecting my reputation, thank you. She still misses me. I've caused her a lot of trouble. Now there are rumors about you and me everywhere. I'm just a studio, it doesn't matter, but your Fu's is a big company. What should we do next? Do you want me to come forward and explain it? Fu Liuyan put down the phone and smiled faintly. No. Let the bullets fly for a while. My mind was racing, wondering why Fu Liuyan could be so calm. Didn't she do any public relations? Let the self-media smear her and Fu's image. Mr. Fu, if anything goes on, it will affect Fu's partners. Qi Wei offered a suggestion, however, let's do some public relations. Let Mr. Zhang post a video to clarify. Fu Liuyan immediately interrupted Qi Wei, there is nothing to clarify between Mr. Zhang and me. Doesn't this mean that she and I are in a real boyfriend-girlfriend relationship? My ears couldn't help but feel hot. She let the rumors fly all over the sky, just to promote through self-media that she and I are indeed in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. But what if our partners cancel the cooperation? Qi Wei said worriedly. Fu Liuyan smiled calmly, as elegant as a chrysanthemum. How many people are rushing to cooperate with our Fus? Isn't that deep blue company also thinking about our investment? As long as we are strong enough, we are not afraid that others will not cooperate with us. Beep. 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 Fu Liuyan's phone vibrated on the table, and she frowned when she saw the name. Because the distance was a bit far, I didn't see who called her. However, with what she said to Qi Wei, I feel more at ease. That is to say, Fu's company will not be greatly affected by this incident. It seems that I still have to learn from Fu Liuyan how to stay calm when encountering things. Hello, Dad, what's the matter? As soon as Fu Liuyan opened his mouth, my heart suddenly rose to my throat. Chapter 39 Don't Attack by Surprise. Regarding Mr. Fu, I have seen some information about him, saying that he is old-fashioned and stubborn, and his relationship with Fu Liuyan is not very harmonious. I don't know if it is true. What's the matter? Although Fu Liuyan did not turn on the speakerphone, the vigorous and powerful voice on the other end of the phone still reached my ears. The internet is in chaos, and you are still so calm. Fu Liuyan is indifferent. You can say whatever you want about things on the internet. I'm tired of managing a company and I'm too lazy to deal with these self-media anymore. What's going on between you and that Zhang guy? What's going on? It said on the internet that you're pregnant with his child. Fu Liuyan chuckled, stunning the whole city. I have such a good figure, do you think I look like a pregnant woman? At this time, I couldn't help but admire her waist. Although she was half lying, her slender waist was still very eye-catching. Don't worry. I don't care what your relationship with Zhang is, break it off immediately. Otherwise, how can I explain to the Jiu family? Fu Liuyan's face suddenly darkened, and then she smiled sadly. So you just wanted to give an explanation to the Jiu family? When have you ever thought about me? Asshole. You have no conscience. If you don't think about you, how did you get the position of CEO? Fu Liuyan suddenly cried, I can sit on the position of CEO of Fu Group entirely by my own efforts. Par. She slammed her phone on the table, her eyes red and tears welled up. Since we met again, I have never seen her so fragile. Qi Wei gently poked my back and winked at me, asking me to go over and comfort Fu Liuyan. She left the ward and closed the door.
To be honest, I am not good at coaxing people. I sat beside her and wanted to hold her hand, but I was embarrassed. I didn't expect that your relationship with your father is so bad. But then again, he is your father after all, and he called you out of concern for you. He cares about me. Fu Liuyan snorted, I will always be the least valuable one in his eyes. I hesitated and said, you and Jiu Shijie from the Jiu family. She didn't let me finish, but grabbed my hand. Her rub was soft but very cold. Will you stay here with me tonight and talk? I should refuse her, but so many things happened in one day, I really couldn't bear to leave her alone in the deserted ward. So, I nodded. She was as happy as if she had found a treasure, and she held my face and kissed me. My face turned red. She giggled. Look at you, you are red like a little pepper. I was embarrassed and annoyed, and when she wasn't paying attention, I held her face and gave her a hot French kiss. I couldn't tell how long this kiss lasted. I only know that when I let her go, she gasped heavily. I licked my lips, which were still scented with her lipstick. Don't sneak up on me in the future, or I'll pay you back tenfold. I spent more than an hour talking to her in the ward, talking about our past memories and our situations in the past few years. Slowly, she fell asleep. In order to facilitate family care for the patients and the injured, 2 beds were prepared in the VIP ward, which were similar to the beds at home and very comfortable. But I didn't sleep on the bed, because I was worried that someone with bad intentions would secretly take photos of me and Fu Liuyan in the same room and post them online, letting the situation continue to ferment. I came to the lobby of the floor and lay on the bench to rest. In my dream, I vaguely saw 2 men coming out of the elevator, passing by me, and coming back after a while. One of the men shook my shoulder with his hand, which was extremely rude. Hey, stop sleeping, get up. I thought it was the caregiver who was trying to steal my sleeping place, so I sat up angrily, rubbed my eyes, and cursed, I have a name, not hey. Your name is Jiang Xianyu's ex-husband, right, another man said coldly. Chapter 40 Unless she becomes Mrs. Jiu. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt puzzled. How did the man in front of me know me? There were 2 men in front of me, one with a thick jawbone, wearing a black t-shirt, and his arm muscles bulged as if his sleeves were about to burst. The other man was wearing a white shirt, a blue tie, a suit, and leather shoes, and his hair was combed sleekly, meticulously. His pupils shrank slightly, his eyes were sharp, and there was a hint of contempt. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised, as if he was smiling. I stretched and smiled slightly. Now that I'm so famous, anyone can recognize me. Anyone. The sturdy man bared his teeth, looking ferocious. Do you know who is in front of you now? I pouted uninterestedly. May I ask, what's your name? Tell me, let me be surprised. The sturdy man clenched his fist and pretended to hit him. You dare to call me I in front of Mr. Jiu, you want to be beaten, right? I immediately understood. This sturdy man is a bodyguard, and he is protecting Jiu Shijie who is beside him. Since I learned about the relationship between Fu Liuyan and Jiu Shijie, I realized that he and I would meet sooner or later, but what I never expected was that our meeting would be so sudden, and in the middle of the night. I thought about it and understood. If I came earlier, I would encounter reporters squatting, and there would be no reporters entangled in the middle of the night. Jiu Shijie gave the bodyguard a look, and the bodyguard immediately retracted his fist and stepped back. I don't care if the stuff on the internet is true or not, you leave the hospital now and don't meet Liuyan again. He said it lightly, but it gave me an unprecedented pressure. However, I don't care. This hospital is not named Jiu, right? Why can't I stay here? The bodyguard said angrily, Boss Jiu told you to get out, don't refuse a toast and drink a penalty. I have always been soft-hearted, don't look at his big fist, I'm not afraid at all. There are so many people in this world who are strong on the outside but weak on the inside, and who are just pretending to be powerful. My eyes swept across the bodyguard's face with contempt and fell on Jiu Shijie. I don't know how to get out since I was a child, why don't you show me? Damn it. The bodyguard swung his fist and hit me. I grabbed his wrist in an instant, and his fist froze in the air. Don't take bin buns as dry food, I also learned fighting for 3 years. The bodyguard's eyes suddenly panicked, you little brat, have you practiced? Take your hand away, or I'll make you pay. I gave him another chance. He let go of his hand, and a scarlet scratch appeared on his wrist. To my disappointment, the bodyguard didn't dare to raise his fist again, but looked at Jiu Shijie, asking him to give instructions.
Jiang Xianyu smiled. We are all civilized people, we don't fight. Mr. Jiang, as far as I know, you have just been kicked out of the Jiang family, and now you have almost nothing. You and Liu Yin can't have a result. You don't want to experience the feeling of being kicked out again, right? Liu Yin and I are perfect match, talented and beautiful. Who in the business world doesn't want us to be husband and wife? The Jiang family also strongly supports us to be together. Seeing that the bodyguard no longer had the arrogance just now, I sat down, crossed my legs, and sneered. This is not the old society anymore. Marriages cannot be arranged. If you want to marry Fu Liuyin, you must ask for her consent. But as far as I know, she doesn't seem to have any feelings for you. My words must have touched Jiang Xianyu's sore spot. The sense of superiority on his face disappeared immediately, and his face became gloomy and long. Impossible. Zhang Fuxing, you must leave the hospital tonight, and you are not allowed to call Liu Yin again, otherwise I can make you disappear from the world. There was murderous intent in his eyes, and my heart couldn't help but jump. I thought he was not just talking. But I was stubborn. Wait until you acquire this hospital and change your surname to Jiu, then I can leave. As for whether to see Fu Liuyin or not, that is my freedom. Unless one day, you can also acquire her and make her Mrs. Jiu. Chapter 41. I am not the one who wants to climb the social ladder. At the moment, Fu Liuyin is not interested in Jiang Xianyu, and Jiang Xianyu has no choice, otherwise he would not vent his anger on me. If Fu Liuyin had any feelings for Jiang Xianyu, why would Jiang Xianyu threaten me? My words hit his sore spot, and a fierce light flashed in his bottomless eyes. But then he showed a weird smile. I know people like you. You come from a low-income family and dream of climbing the social ladder. So, you married Jiang Xianyu first. But Jiang Xianyu gradually became impatient with you and kicked you out. You are not willing to give up, and you come to seduce Liu Yin again, wanting to become the son-in-law of the Fu family. When Liu Yin comes to his senses, he will still kick you out. The higher you climb, the more painful it will be. You make a condition, as long as you stop harassing Liu Yin, I can agree to it. It is true that I come from a low-income family, but I have never thought about climbing the social ladder. Jiang Xianyu looked down on people, which made me feel cold. I laughed. It's not me who harassed Fu Liuyin, but you. Otherwise, why did she get hurt and only let me take care of her instead of calling you? She obviously wanted to avoid you, but you shamelessly bumped into her. It's not me who wants to climb up the social ladder, but you. Don't you just want to get a hand from the Fu family through marriage? Fu Liuyin has seen it long ago. I just wanted to trick him, but I didn't expect him to be panicked, gnashing his teeth, and getting angry. Are you tired of living? Believe it or not, I will throw you downstairs. I looked up at the camera in the corner. Throw it away. A cheap life in exchange for a boss, it's worth it. I stood up and deliberately waved at the camera. Boy, remember what you said today. Jiang Xianyu put his hands in his pockets, blushing, and walked into the elevator angrily. The moment the elevator door closed, I immediately let out a long breath. Jiang Xianyu looked gentle and refined, but the viciousness and evilness that emanated from him scared me. Let's take a step back and say that if Fu Liuyin really wanted to marry Jiang Xianyu, I would definitely not agree just because of the evilness in him. Just because of the relationship with my ex-girlfriend, I couldn't let Fu Liuyin fall into dire straits. At this time, I heard Fu Liuyin calling me, so I went back to the ward. Who are you talking to? She asked without hesitation. I perfunctorily said, I'm not talking to anyone. She realized that I was lying, and her eyes were as bright as lightning. Who is it? Since it came to this, I had to tell her the truth. Jiang Xianyu came just now. She was not as surprised as I expected, and was very calm. What did Jiang Xianyu say to you? You should be able to guess what he said to me. The only thing that brought me and Jiang Xianyu together was Fu Liuyin, so I knew the purpose of his looking for me without thinking. He wants you to stay away from me, right? Fu Liuyin asked. I nodded. You agreed. Her eyes were sharp. If he talked nicely, maybe I would agree. I said, but he threatened me from the beginning, I hate being threatened the most. Fu Liuyin was happy and worried. Aren't you afraid that he will retaliate against you? Yes. I answered truthfully, and Jiang Xianyu left a shadow in my heart. Fu Liuyin seemed a little disappointed, his eyes dim. Since you are afraid, why don't you agree to him and stay away from me? I am afraid of his revenge, but I am more afraid of you being with him.
I said seriously, this is the first time I met him, but I already know what kind of person he is. You will not be happy with him. Fu Liuyan's mouth corners rose slightly. Do you care about me so much? Facing her sharp eyes like a blade, I was a little stage frightened and avoided her gaze. After all, she is my ex-girlfriend, of course I care. I have a way to get rid of Jiu Shijie's entanglement, but I don't know if you are willing to agree. Fu Liuyan said. What's the solution? I asked hastily. Chapter 42, Video Confession. Fu Liuyan called me over. I hesitated for a moment, but still sat on the bed, next to her. Her cold and soft hands were on my face, and I trembled slightly as if I had received an electric shock. Record a video now, post it online, and tell everyone that I am your girlfriend, and we are going to register for marriage. As long as Jiu Shijie sees the video and stops thinking about it, he will stop bothering me. I stood up quickly. Not to mention that Fu Liuyan and I have been separated for 3 years, and our feelings have faded. It is too hasty to get married now. What will the Jiang family think of me? Getting married right after a divorce, isn't that a complete scumbag? No way. I refused. You don't love me. Fu Liuyan was unhappy, and her eyes suddenly turned cold. In fact, I can't say that I love her, I just have a better impression of her than others. But if I say it bluntly, I'm afraid Fu Liuyan will be sad. I got married right after my divorce. What do others think of me? Do you care so much about what others think of you? And you don't care about my life or death? Fu Liuyan said sadly. Now I understand why Fu Liuyan wants to let rumors fly everywhere. The purpose is to use rumors to make Jiu Shijie stop pestering her. No wonder she doesn't care about rumors. It means that I was used by Fu Liuyan. I was very upset. Recording a video confession is something that teenagers do. Fu Liuyan suddenly laughed, held my hand and stroked it. Are you angry? I'm kidding you. I snorted, you are using me to get rid of Jiu Shijie. I almost fell for you. She suddenly pulled me into her arms while I wasn't paying attention. We were so close, and the 2 lumps pressed my chest, and my breathing was choked. What do you want to do to not be angry? The room was instantly filled with ambiguity. Before my reason completely lost its effect, I quickly escaped from her arms. Don't mess around. I tidied my clothes. She sneered coldly, will Jiang Xianyu not let you touch her for 3 years? Are you done? I'm worried about your feet. I retorted and quickly fled the ward. I couldn't sleep while lying on the bench, not because the bench was uncomfortable, but because my mind was always thinking about Fu Liuyan and Jiu Shijie. Except for recording a video to confess to Fu Liuyan, there was really no other way to make Jiu Shijie stop pestering Fu Liuyan. In the morning, I waited for the attending doctor to come for inspection and Qi Wei to take over, and then I dragged my tired body back to the studio. As soon as the car was parked, I heard a harsh sound, which made me frown and my heart suddenly jumped. Zhang Fuxing, stop right there. I turned my head and saw Jiang's mother rushing over aggressively. She was wearing a Chinese retro floral dress and holding a blue handbag. If it was just her figure, she looked very young. However, the anger and harshness on her face made me feel like a nouveau riche, very tacky. I've seen shameless people, but I've never seen someone as shameless as you. Jiang's mother scolded him, you've been very honest for 3 years, you're really hard to guard against. Tell me, when did you get involved with that Fu Liuyan? You even have a child. It's really not worth it for me to pay for Xianyu for 3 years. I gave all my sincerity to a ruthless person. If it weren't for her being an elder, I would have punched her. Aunt Xiang, I don't care what you say about me, but what you said just now has already involved Fu Liuyan, the president of Fu's. Please be careful with your words and actions. As far as I know, your Jiang family's assets are not even a fraction of Fu's, right? If Fu Liuyan hears what you said, and gets angry and starts with Jiang's, your Jiang's will be doomed. This trick really works. Jiang's mother immediately quieted down. I curled my lips in disdain. You can eat more, but don't say anything. For the sake of your past in the Jiang family, I advise Aunt Jiang to keep her mouth shut. If I looked at her mean face with not much flesh for 1 more second, I would feel sick and want to vomit, so I turned and left. She chased after me relentlessly. Now that you have Fu Liuyan's support, you are bold enough to talk back to me. You must apologize to Xianyu. I found it very funny that she didn't dare to mention Fu Liuyan now. But it was not a big deal for her to chase me and scold me like this. I thought about it and realized that there was no other way except to scare her.
Chapter 43. Why did you come to the orthopedics department?
So, I suddenly stopped, turned around, and stared at the old bitch in front of me.
Now I have divorced your daughter and have nothing to do with the Jiang family anymore.
If you keep chasing me and scolding me like a mad dog, I will tell Fu Liuyin to buy out your Jiangs and get rid of your Jiang family. She was instantly confused, her two small eyes swirling rapidly. You dare. I approached her and looked down at her. I will count to 3. If you are still in the garage, I guarantee that there will be no Jiangs in a month. 1. I just counted once, and she was so scared that she dared not say another word and quickly returned to her car and left. I suddenly felt a little sad. Why didn't I find that she was such a soft-hearted woman in the past 3 years? In the studio, I spent a morning catching up on sleep, and when I woke up in the afternoon, I called Fu Liuyin.
What's going on?
I asked. Just now the attending doctor came over and said that I can be discharged the day after tomorrow. Fu Liuyin's voice seemed a little lost.
Good news.
I secretly rejoiced that after the day after tomorrow, I can sleep in my own comfortable bed. Fu Liuyin didn't say anything on the other end of the phone. What are you going to eat tonight? I said.
Carp, radish and tofu soup.
Fu Liuyin replied coldly. I frowned. You can't have carp soup every day, right? Change the taste. I said carp soup is carp soup. If not, don't bring it. Before she finished speaking, she hung up the phone. I touched my messy hair and said to myself, she seems unhappy. After a simple wash, I went to the supermarket to buy materials. Mr. Huang, who does steel business, called our studio just now. Jinan handed me a note as soon as I entered the door. He wants to meet you to discuss the steel of aerospace building. The studio's landline number is left on the studio's website, so generally, the merchants who want to cooperate with us call the studio's phone number. I took the note, which stated the time and place of the meeting. The design of the aerospace building is quite avant-garde, and there are certain standards for the performance of steel. I must keep a close eye on Fu Liuyin. I have investigated and found that only a few steel companies meet this standard, and Mr. Huang's company is one of them. However, if Mr. Huang wants to get the contract for the aerospace building steel, he has to pay me some money. This is the human relationship in the business world. I have to take what I should take, and I will never take what I shouldn't take. So I patted Chinan's shoulder happily. You do your design well, and I'll take care of the rest. Our studio will have another sum of money. I made the soup, put on a mask and sunglasses, and drove to the hospital. It was about 9 o'clock in the evening, and there were people from the self-media squatting at the door of the building. I still chose the special elevator for medical staff to come to the floor where Fu Liuyin was. At this time, I saw Tang Chi sneaking through the glass on the door of the ward to peek inside, as if looking for someone. He couldn't find the person he wanted to find in this ward, so he went to another ward to look around. He looked so wretched. I really couldn't understand why Jiang Xianyu regarded such a man as her white moonlight. Psychologically, if you want to see what kind of person a person is, just look at the people around him. Tang Chi is so wretched, how can Jiang Xianyu be any better? I regret my 3 years of treating such a woman as a treasure. Don't you have lung cancer? Why did you come to the orthopedics department? Have the cancer cells metastasized? My voice was not loud, but it echoed in the corridor, buzzing. Tang Chi's head shrank, almost shrinking into his neck. Seeing it was me, he grinned. I came to the hospital to get medicine, just walking around. I sneered, what a coincidence, you walked to my side. He smiled and rolled his eyes. Which ward is Fu Liuyin in? Does it have anything to do with you? I said angrily. The self-media was inquiring about Fu Liuyin in order to get traffic. What bad intention did Tang Chi have in inquiring about Fu Liuyin? Chapter 44. Don't think I won't beat someone who is about to die. Tang Chi smiled again. Why, you feel so sorry for Fu Liuyin? If Xianyu knew, she would be so sad. I shook my head. Don't use Jiang Xianyu to disgust me. She can't disgust me anymore. I was going to leave, or the soup would get cold. He suddenly grabbed my hand. I suddenly turned back and glared at him. He was so scared that his pupils dilated, and he quickly let go of my hand. Don't think I won't beat someone who is about to die. Calm down, brother. Calm down. Tang Chi raised his hand to indicate that he had no intention of offending me. I just want to go to the lounge to talk with you.
I have nothing to talk about with the dead. I'm not his heir, what can I talk about? I was afraid that I would lose control of my emotions and beat him half to death. Seeing that I refused to go to the lounge, Tang Chi had to give up. I've seen everything about you and Fu Liuyin on the internet. I never thought you and Fu Liuyin would have such a relationship. He sighed as he spoke, as if he was on the moral high ground. I couldn't help but snort in contempt. You and Jiang Xianyu, I never thought of it. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Tang Chi's face. Since you and Fu Liuyin already have a child, you will definitely get married in the future. But you haven't divorced Xianyu yet, what should you do? You can't have two boats at the same time. My pupils shrank, and I was very confused. What is Tang Chi talking about? Didn't Jiang Xianyu tell you? What? Tang Chi asked. What is Jiang Xianyu doing? She has already obtained a divorce certificate with me, why didn't she tell Tang Chi? This is interesting. It seems that Jiang Xianyu doesn't love you that much. My words pierced into Tang Chi's heart like a knife, and he suddenly pulled his face down, gloomy. Xianyu loves me, and I love Xianyu too. He seemed to be lacking confidence when he said this, and his voice was not loud enough. Don't deceive yourself. I laughed. Tang Chi was anxious, his face flushed. My relationship with Xianyu will not be disturbed by a third party. You have fantasies about Xianyu while you are having a hot relationship with Fu Liuyin. It's unfair to Xianyu. I should say this to Jiang Xianyu, right? Ever since I saw you and Jiang Xianyu in bed, I no longer have fantasies about her. Get out now and don't disturb the injured person's rest. Tang Chi blushed. If I were you, I would divorce Xianyu. Luckily, I took a photo at the Civil Affairs Bureau and wanted to post it on WeChat Moments to express my feelings. But then I thought it was inappropriate to post such things on WeChat Moments, so I didn't post it. I opened the photo album on my phone and showed Tang Chi the front of the divorce certificate and the contents inside. Open your dog eyes and look. Jiang Xianyu and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. Tang Chi was stunned for a moment, and the corners of his mouth twitched. You are divorced. If you are not divorced, will I cook for you and Jiang Xianyu every day? Watch you two sitting on the sofa and talking about love. Make the bed and serve you two to sleep. I said sarcastically. Why didn't she tell me? Tang Chi squinted and pondered, his expression was very dissatisfied. I thought about it, frowned and came up with a plan. Maybe, she doesn't want you to know at all. Why? The expression on Tang Chi's face really looked like a capital question mark. I approached him and said in a gloating tone, there is only one truth, she doesn't want to give you a chance. She accompanies you just out of sympathy, and she has no interest in you at all. When you die, it is estimated that she will find another man and marry him before the 7th day. Impossible. Tang Chi was angry and clenched his fists, which made me more suspicious of the authenticity of his lung cancer. I laughed and said, do you think Jiang Xianyu is a good person? After 3 years, she is no longer the Jiang Xianyu of 3 years ago. He was annoyed for a while, and suddenly stared at me suspiciously. You won't lie, right? I pointed at the elevator. You can ask her now if I have already completed the divorce procedure with her. He turned around and left without hesitation. When the elevator door closed, I said to myself, it would be great if I could see them fighting each other. Chapter 45 I am not your employee. I pushed open the door of the ward, and Fu Liuyin was very dissatisfied. Is this dinner or supper? Not only did she not appreciate my hard work in cooking, she also spoke to me in such a weird tone, which made me very unhappy. If you want to eat faster, you can choose from the cafeteria or takeout. I put the lunchbox on the bedside table, and this time I wanted her to scoop it out herself. None of my employees dare to speak to me in this tone. Fu Liuyin said in the tone of a president. I shrugged, sorry, I'm not your employee. Suddenly, Fu Liuyin's sexy mouth curled up, beautiful and charming. But you are my partner. For partners who are not forgiving with their mouths, I will usually terminate the contract immediately. I smiled, am I normal? Fu Liuyin's cold eyes fell on the lunchbox. You are not normal. It's not your mouth that counts, but your actions. I thought of something that I needed Fu Liuyin's help with, so I had to hold my breath, open the lunchbox, and feed her soup spoon by spoon. Do you know anyone in this hospital? The kind with more power. Fu Liuyin squinted her shoulders and looked alert. What do you want to do? You want to do hospital interior design. This is too unchallenging for you and your studio. I didn't want to tell her my true intention,
so I followed her and said, "My studio is in its infancy. As long as there is money to be made, why not make it?" Although she was puzzled, she still wrote a name and contact information and gave me the note. He is the director of the Human Resources Department. You can go to him and see if you can get some hospital design business through him. I flicked the note happily. "Thank you. I will treat you to a meal if you get the business." Fu Liuyan opened her mouth slightly and pointed with her finger. "R. I scooped the soup into her mouth. As the soup entered her stomach, her expression became lively. Suddenly, her jade hand hooked my waist. I was startled and quickly stepped back 2 steps. Fu Liuyan was not so rogue before. "You really should be a model," Fu Liuyan said with emotion. "You have the best figure among all the men I have ever seen." I felt humiliated. "Do you want me to be a gigolo?" "I just lament that Jiang Xianyu is a fool and left such a good man to me," Fu Liuyan said in a joking tone, but her eyes were so sincere. Feeding Fu Liuyan soup was really a torture. Every look from her was like a knife stabbing me and making me feel uncomfortable. Every word she said was like a difficult question that made it difficult for me to cope with it. After finally feeding her soup, I looked at my watch and it was already 10 o'clock. With a fluke, I came to the first floor of the Human Resources Department of the hospital complex building and found that the lights in the director's office were still on. I tidied my clothes and knocked on the door politely. "Who is it?" A man's voice inside sounded sharp like a woman's. I figured that if I didn't bring up Fu Liuyan, the director of the Human Resources Department would not let me in. "Hello, director. I am Mr. Fu Liuyan's friend. I have something to talk to you about. This trick really works. Wait a moment." The director politely opened the door and asked enthusiastically, "Mr. Fu asked you to come. What's the matter?" I looked at the corridor mysteriously and cautiously. "Let's talk inside." I closed the door and smiled embarrassedly at the director. "It's like this. Mr. Fu found that a friend of hers came here to get medicine during her hospital stay. This is her very good friend. Mr. Fu really wants to know what disease he has so that he can help him with money." After saying this, the director understood what I meant. He was embarrassed for a while, but finally nodded. "In theory, we cannot disclose the patient's information. But Mr. Fu is not someone else, I will make an exception for once." "What is the name of Mr. Fu's friend?" I smiled slightly. "Tang Chi. Tang for drinking soup, Chi for enlightenment. Chapter 46. I will make him pay the price." The director opened the hospital system and entered the 2 words, Tang Chi. Unfortunately, there is no medical information of Tang Chi on it. Did Mr. Fu remember it wrongly? "Is her friend really called Tang Chi?" said the director. I thought about it and said with a smile, "Either she remembered it wrong, or I remembered it wrong. I will ask her later." After leaving the director's office, I stopped at the corner of the stairs for a moment. This hospital does not have Tang Chi's medical information, which means that he was lying when he said he came to get medicine today. But this still cannot prove that Tang Chi's lung cancer is fake and pretended. When he heard that Jiang Xianyu did not tell him about the divorce, he was so angry. Let me ask, can a dying person still be so angry? I had no choice but to return to the surgical inpatient department and lie in the rest hall for another night. When Fu Liuyan was discharged from the hospital, I didn't plan to pick her up. I was worried that Ji Yushijie would show up and cause trouble. In the morning, I called Mr. Huang from the steel company and met him at a leisure and entertainment bar. He boasted about his company's reputation, and then leaned close to my ear and whispered, "As long as Mr. Zhang agrees to choose my company's steel, 2 million will be credited immediately. I have investigated Mr. Huang's company. The performance of the steel and the company's reputation are indeed good. It doesn't matter if you choose him or other companies. Why not take the 3 million? I nodded and stretched out my hand, happy cooperation. But at this moment, his mobile phone vibrated in his pocket. He took it out and looked at it, his eyebrows immediately twisted, and his face instantly darkened. "Mr. Zhang, wait a moment, I'll go out to answer a call." My heart was pounding, and I had a bad premonition. It turned out that my premonition was correct. When Mr. Huang came back, his eyes were dull and his mouth was drooping. "Mr. Huang, something urgent happened at home, so I'm going back first." He picked up his briefcase and was about to leave. I was surprised and annoyed, so I grabbed his arm and stared at him sternly. "Steel matter. Let's talk about it later. Let's talk about it later." When he said this,
his expression seemed as if his heart was being torn. After tonight, I can only talk to other steel companies, I warned. He gritted his teeth. Okay. How many steel companies are licking their asses to provide steel for the aerospace building? What's the situation with Mr. Huang? Did something really happen at home? I asked. He just nodded slightly. Someone threatened you and didn't want you to cooperate with me, right? At this moment, Mr. Huang didn't say anything or express anything else. Now I understand. It's Jiang Xianyu who puts pressure on you, right? Mr. Huang still didn't express anything, which was equivalent to acquiescence. The Jiang family is rich and powerful. If they really put pressure on Mr. Huang will have no choice but to submit. I didn't want to embarrass him, so I waved my hand. Mr. Huang left the leisure bar dejectedly. I stirred my coffee and looked out the window. Jiang Xianyu did this for only one purpose, which was to force me to break up with Fu Liuyin. The more he did this, the more I couldn't let him do what he wanted. Originally I didn't want to pick up Fu Liuyin from the hospital in the afternoon, but I changed my mind. I called Qinan first to tell him that the talks with Mr. Huang had failed, and told him that it was Jiang Xianyu who was making trouble. Qinan was so angry that he cursed. How insidious. The 3 million that I saw in my hand disappeared. If I meet him on the street, I will definitely punch him. I comforted Qinan, don't worry, I will make him pay the price. Jiang Xianyu thought that my studio was small and he could ride on my head to shit and piss, but he was wrong. I hung up Qinan's phone and called Fu Liuyin. I'll pick you up from the hospital in a while, you stay in the ward and wait for me. Fu Liuyin said coldly, didn't you say you had business to discuss and couldn't come to pick me up? If you force it, don't come, I don't like to force others. I smiled and said, I figured it out, no matter how big the business is, it's not as important as serving you well. Remember, wait for me in the ward. Then hurry up. Fu Liuyin said in an imperative tone. After hanging up the phone, he drove straight to the hospital. Chapter 47 Goose Dog. When I arrived at the door of the surgical inpatient building, I found that something was wrong. The self-media people who had been squatting there before were gone, replaced by several men wearing black short-sleeved shirts and sunglasses. I thought about it for a while and understood. These men must be Jiang Xianyu's men. It was they who scared the self-media people away. I was about to turn to the elevator for medical staff, but was discovered by the bodyguard that day. Boy, stop. He ran towards me. I knew the situation was not good, so I hurriedly dialed Fu Liuyi's number and turned on the hands-free. What's wrong? I looked at him dissatisfied. Although they were many in number, they would not do anything to me. Where are you going? The bodyguard asked unhappily. Upstairs. I mocked, is their hospital named Jiang now? He deliberately kept a distance from me and was a little afraid of me. If you want to visit President Fu, forget it. President Jiang is processing the discharge procedures for her, don't go up and make yourself look bad. Impossible. The phone was connected, and I deliberately shouted at the phone, President Fu doesn't want to see Jiang Xianyu at all, she only wants to see me. The bodyguard laughed, and his bony face was full of sarcasm. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? How much do you weigh? Get out of here, or you'll be in trouble. I raised the phone, did you hear that? The dog of the Jiang family won't let me go up. Fu Liuyin asked me to give the phone to the bodyguard, so I gave it to him to answer the call. Jiang Xianyu is the bodyguard. Yes, I am. Let Mr. Zhang come up. What Mr. Jiang means is. If you don't let him up, do you believe that Jiang Xianyu will make you unemployed tomorrow? Okay. I'll let him go right away, Mr. Fu, don't be angry. The bodyguard was afraid of the consequences. He knew that Jiang Xianyu cared about Fu Liuyin. In order to make Fu Liuyin happy, Jiang Xianyu could do anything. Even if Jiang Xianyu asked him to stop me, in order to please Fu Liuyin, Jiang Xianyu could do superficial work in front of Fu Liuyin. Why should the bodyguard ask for trouble? If Jiang Xianyu pursued it, the bodyguard could completely blame Fu Liuyin. The bodyguard gave me the phone, and I said to the phone, dear, I'll go up right away. After that, he hung up the phone. The bodyguard waved at me and motioned me to go upstairs. Mr. Huang's matter made me very angry. When I entered the elevator, I deliberately bumped the bodyguard's shoulder and he staggered. Zhang, wait and see, the bodyguard gritted his teeth.
But other than that, he didn't dare to do anything to me. I took the elevator to the floor and saw Jiang Xianyu sitting on a bench in the lounge.
Two men stood next to him, both wearing black short sleeves and sunglasses.
If Mr. Fu doesn't go with us, what should we do?
Will we keep waiting?
A man leaned over and said to Jiang Xianyu.
Jiang Xianyu smiled proudly. As long as we don't let Zhang come up, Fu Liuyin will go with us sooner or later. I think it's time to show up, and I have to show up in the most dazzling way, otherwise I can't calm the surging true energy in my body.
So, I put my hands in my pockets, strode with my head held high, and the sound of my leather shoes echoed throughout the corridor.
Zhang Fuxing. Jiang Xianyu jumped up suddenly when he saw me, his face full of surprise. Why are you here? I'm here to pick up Liuyin from the hospital.
I was very proud, and deliberately used an intimate tone when I said the word Liuyin. Didn't Liuyin tell you that she was going to be discharged today?
Jiang Xianyu winked, and the two men ran up to me and blocked my way. I'll give you another chance. Jiang Xianyu approached my body, his voice low. Otherwise, you will die ugly.
Of course I won't be scared by his momentum. I do whatever I want to do, and I don't do what I don't want to do.
No one can influence my choice.
Jiang Xianyu was very stunned. He didn't expect that I would be such a hard bone to chew. Did you meet Mr. Huang this morning? He threatened me further. Do you know why he cancelled the cooperation with you? I tried my best to control my anger and said coldly, who else is so insidious except you?
Good to know.
Jiang Xianyu laughed triumphantly. If you continue to go against me, I guarantee that you will not get any orders in the future. Chapter 48 Beginning and Ending. I pulled the corner of my mouth. Do you know why I must come to pick up Liuyin from the hospital? It's because of Mr. Wang's matter. You stab me with a knife, and I stab you with a sword.
Let's see who can hold on to the end. To be honest, I think you are very thick-skinned.
You should take your lackey away.
Liuyin will not be discharged with you.
Jiang Xianyu must have never been humiliated like this before, and his face suddenly became ferocious. I won't give him a chance to make trouble, so I shouted to Fu Liuyin's ward, Liuyin, I'm coming.
Jiang Xianyu looked panicked and immediately retracted his fist.
I laughed as I brushed past him. If he dared to hit me, the little good impression he had in Fu Liuyin's heart would be gone. I walked into the ward, and Fu Liuyin's face was full of concern. Did Jiang Xianyu do anything to you?
I said proudly, with you as a shield, he dare not do anything to me.
I understand him, he dare not do anything to you openly, but I am worried that he will hurt you secretly.
Fu Liuyin said worriedly. I was moved. It seems that you still know him well.
Fu Liuyin pondered my words for a while, her eyes anxious. What did he do to you secretly? I didn't want her to worry too much, so I just smiled slightly.
Who asked you to drag me down?
A man should start and finish.
I want to see what Jiang Xianyu can do to me.
Start and finish. Fu Liuyin raised her eyebrows, her eyes sparkling. Can I understand that you will not stop until you turn me into Mrs. Zhang?
I showed an embarrassed expression on my face and answered vaguely, that's not what I meant.
You are still the same as you were back then.
I admire your personality. Fu Liuyin said and hooked her finger at me. Come here, carry me out of bed.
I handed her the crutches. Your foot can touch the ground, and walking alone is not a problem. Fu Liuyin threw the crutches aside.
I asked you to carry me out. Can you be a little more low-key? I was in a dilemma.
It was really embarrassing to carry the president of Fu out of the hospital building in front of everyone.
If you don't do this, how can Jiang Xianyu give up?
Fu Liuyin hit the nail on the head.
She was right. Jiang Xianyu ruined my 3 million, and I haven't completely vented my anger yet. Even the president of Fu Group is not ashamed, so why should I be ashamed?
I picked up Fu Liuyin, her jade hands hooked around my neck, her eyes were moist and charming under her long eyelashes.
Please don't look at me with such a sister-like look, okay? I will fall down if I am distracted. Isn't this good?
Fu Liuyin said softly, gentle and lovely, you press on me, let's have an accidental kiss. My ears were burning, and I hurriedly interrupted her.
You have watched too many idle dramas. Walking out of the ward, I found that Jiang Xianyu's eyes were about to explode.
Liuyin, how could you let him hug you?
Jiang Xianyu was angry, but he could only hold it in.
Fu Liuyin put her warm face on my chest.
He is my boyfriend, why can't he hug me? Jiang Xianyu yelled, he is not worthy of being your boyfriend. He is just a loser who was kicked out by the Jiang family. Liu Yin, don't be deceived by his sweet words. I hate it most when others mention the Jiang family, so I said to him, sweet words don't match, but are they insidious and vicious? Jiu Shijie and the two men were blocking the corridor, so I added, a good dog doesn't block the road, please get out of the way. By the way, help me take the luggage downstairs, please. Fu Liuyin said to Jiu Shijie. Fu Liuyin and I cooperated with each other, one hard and one soft, so that Jiu Shijie had no place to vent his anger. What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and help Mr. Fu move the luggage. Jiu Shijie kicked the two men. I carried Fu Liuyin into the elevator, and Jiu Shijie followed in, just watching me carry Fu Liuyin out of the elevator and into Chinan's car. Liuyin, take my car. Jiu Shijie got the chance to show off, his car is too low end, my car is spacious and comfortable. Chapter 49. Don't get so close. Chinan's car is only a few 100,000, Jiu Shijie's car is tens of millions, and there is no comparison in terms of comfort and spaciousness. Fu Liuyin smiled calmly, I'm tired of luxury cars, I want to experience the feeling of another kind of car. Oh, by the way. You just put your luggage in the trunk, you don't have to follow. Jiu Shijie said with a dark face and thick skin, you have an injury on your leg and need someone to take care of you. Fu Liuyin didn't wait for him to finish, it's enough to have Zhang Fuxing here, I won't bother you. Your company has a lot of business, go back quickly. I closed the car door, turned on the engine, and the car slowly left. From the rearview mirror, I saw Jiu Shijie slap the bodyguard who asked me to go upstairs. Although I couldn't hear what he cursed, I guessed what he cursed from his mouth shape. I felt so happy. I can't walk normally these 2 days, you have to stay at my house and take care of me. Fu Liuyin said. My brows, which had just relaxed, frowned again. I'm afraid it's inconvenient. Fu Liuyin retorted, now many people know that you and I are in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, what's the inconvenience? Knowing that we are in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship is one thing, and living together is another. Besides, I haven't officially decided to be Fu Liuyin's boyfriend yet. Fu Liuyin leaned close to my ear and exhaled sweetly. Isn't it normal for boyfriends and girlfriends to live together? You are too outdated. I followed her words and said, so, you'd better not fall in love with a man with outdated ideas. I want you to take care of me. Her flaming red lips almost touched my earlobe. Don't get so close. My heart was pounding, you'll get into a car accident. Fu Liuyin was very proud, I just got so close to you, and you're not calm. Is it because you don't have enough self-control, or am I too attractive? I freed one hand and gently pushed her back. Suddenly, a warm and soft feeling of comfort spread from the back of my hand to my whole body. I quickly withdrew my hand and found a faint lip print on the back of my hand. I came to her villa and carried her into the living room and put her on the sofa. I poured a glass of water and drank it myself first, then poured another glass and put it on the coffee table in front of Fu Liuyin. You take a rest, I'm going back to the studio. Fu Liuyin's beautiful eyes turned up, cold and stern, like a queen. You turned a deaf ear to my words. I said in a pleading tone, the studio still needs to operate, I have to go back to work. If you take care of me for a day, I will introduce you to 10 target customers. Fu Liuyin crossed her arms, her eyes were cold and full of temptation. I was worried that the client resources in my hands were controlled by Jiu Shijie. It would be great if I could get an introduction from Fu Liuyin. In terms of strength, the Jiu family is not as good as the Fu family. The clients introduced by Fu Liuyin will definitely not be affected by Jiu Shijie. I hesitated, if I agree to you, it seems that I am a gigolo. Fu Liuyin smiled sweetly, being able to eat my gigolo is a blessing he earned in his previous life. For the studio, I can only put down my self-esteem as a man. I opened the refrigerator and found that there was nothing in it except eggs and milk. For me, who has been a househusband for 3 years, the refrigerator must be full, otherwise I will go to the supermarket to buy things and fill it up. This has become my obsessive-compulsive disorder. You take a rest on the sofa, I'll go buy vegetables and cook. Go to the bathroom and put in hot water first. I haven't taken a shower for several days. Fu Liuyin was in the hospital for a few days and just asked Qi Wei to wipe his body. It feels bad to be ordered around, but I can only obey. I put in the hot water and walked to the living room. Let me help you into the bathroom. The plaster on her leg had been removed, and she could touch the ground with her feet,
so it was no problem for her to walk. However, the floor of the bathroom was slippery, so I still helped her in diligently for safety reasons. Help me take off my clothes. Fu Yuyin stood in front of the bathtub with her back to me. My body shook violently. My mind was blank for more than 10 seconds. Can't you take it off by yourself? It's just taking off clothes, why are you hesitating? Fu Yuyin's words were full of sarcasm, as if I had dirty thoughts and was thinking wrongly.